Stream time, stream time, stream time, stream time. Ba-ba-ba-bum, bum, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-bum-bum-bum. It's time to stream. It's time to stream, streaming away. Hope you're having a real nice day. Yeah, we're here to stream today. Streaming, streaming, streaming away. Hope you guys are doing well out there. I had a pretty good day today. Went down to a protest. The doctors of Ontario, the nurses of Ontario, as well as Coopy and all that, are finally beginning. The professional class of this province is actually beginning to start getting its act together. Good evening, that guy. Good to see you. They're beginning to get together and actually start to get out and do what must be done, which is to protest. My complaint, of course, about their protest, it's pretty clear these people are not, protesters, you know? And my complaint is that they're not actually threatening the Ford administration with anything. That they're going out there and they're saying, hey, we don't like this, and we're asking you nicely, Doug Ford. We're asking you nicely. Do the right thing, Doug Ford. Do the right thing. Don't put through this legislation that's going to kill people. That's obviously going to result in people's deaths. Don't do it, right? So they're beseeching the politeness. They're saying to the ruling class that is actively working to murder poor people through social murder, they're actively saying, yeah, don't do that. Please, we want to believe that you're capable of good emotions and you're capable of being a good person. And so it's sad to say, I understand why the doctors and the nurses are getting out there. They're the ones that are going to see it happen on the front lines. Hi, comrade. Hello, Mike Fine. Good to see you, bud. That's a nice thing to say. I don't often pay too much attention to the TikTok chat because it's usually just dreck, like Nazi shit. But somebody saying just hi, comrade, that's nice. What a lovely thing to say. I hope you're doing well out there, Mike. Eric, good to see you, bud. Good to see you. Mike. That's so funny. I'm trying to interact more with TikTok, but TikTok keeps just pushing me out, honestly. It really does. Because I understand, there's people here that want to engage and don't necessarily want to take that path to YouTube, even though, it's the YouTube chat, it's in the description, you can come on in, right? And that's the best way to talk to me. Because I don't really care to moderate the TikTok chat, because it's pretty bad, man, pretty bad. Eric, how do you feel today? Still processing from yesterday's session? Yeah, I am actually, dude. Yesterday was heavy, and so today's gonna be a little bit lighter, a little bit more meme focused. For those on TikTok who aren't seeing this, we've got a good Chris Hedges quote up here. Capitalists should never be allowed near a healthcare system. They hold sick children hostage as they force parents to bankrupt themselves in the desperate scramble to pay for medical care. The sick does not have a choice. Medical care is not a consumable good. We can choose to buy a used or new car, shop at a boutique or a thrift store, but there is no choice between illness and health. Absolutely. What happened? The teachers and the nurses put up a stink, and Coopy showed up, which was nice. Because they're actually the serious threat. They're the more serious organization. They're the ones that actually threatened a general strike. They're the ones that actually put Doug Ford on the back foot some months ago. But really, it was just a rah-rah session, and it was building up to. There's a larger protest that's supposed to happen on Saturday, so it is building up to something. But there's no teeth on it. That's sort of my complaint. But it could become something more serious. We will see. We will see. You're wrong on one point. Capitalism is working just as intended. That is a fair thing to say, bud. That is actually a fair thing to say. This is how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to make sure that most people suffer. That's the point. You're right. Checkmate. I'll take it. Yeah, name and address. Thanks, bud. I'll get right on that, you little fucking Nazi. Donnie is getting arrested? Probably not, dude. Like, has that actually happened? Is there, like, there's always been this sort of buzz for the last week. Donald Trump. Come on now. Donald Trump arrest. I feel like they would be everywhere if Donald Trump actually got arrested. Oh, hey, there we go. 3 minutes ago. Donald Trump is indicted in New York. Here's what this means. Here's what happens next. Go it. Former President Donald Trump has been indicted by a Manhattan grand jury. People familiar with the matter said becoming the first person in U.S. history to serve as commander-in-chief and then be charged with a crime. So what is an indictment? When someone is indicted by a grand jury, it means they are charged with one or more crimes. It's a fancy way of saying the charging document. It's a piece of paper that contains the charge. Here's evidence. The grand jury process is secret. Yabba yabba. It's about Stormy Daniels. Are you kidding me? Taken down by a porn star. The great Donald Trump destroyed. Justice! Porn wins again! Donald Trump is certainly the most entertaining president. No doubt about that. No doubt about that. Like, he's way more entertaining than Biden. Biden is just like, the only entertainment you can derive out of Joe Biden is that, oh, he said a thing wrong because he's old and has dementia. That's literally it. Whereas Donald Trump is just saying the wackiest shit all the time, and he means it. Now that he's charged, will he be publicly arrested? No. Come on, guys. Like, he's going to pay a fine. I think that's what it really comes down to. Like, oh, hey. Oh, no, is this a more serious thing? Trump posted that he would be arrested. It depends. Once he is indicted, he could be placed in handcuffs. Dude, this is going to set a firestorm off in the Republican Party. Like, this is going to be considered like a coup. This is how they're gonna view it, though, right? Like, the Republican Party isn't just gonna be like, Donnie did a bad thing and we got to make sure. Like, they're gonna lose their fucking mind about this. This is so fucking funny, dude. So he takes campaign funds, gives it to Stormy Daniels, a porn star, and now he might actually go to jail for it. This would be brilliant. What a wonderful way for a former U.S. president. Like, George W. Bush murders 1 million people. Donald Trump uses some money to get his cock sucked by a porn star. Like, oh, that guy. The stream yesterday. I read a document that was published by the Chinese government that took me about an hour and a half, and it put like a dagger in my brain. That's what it did. It was like a dagger in my brain. Oh no, Cruz, I don't really care to debate the veracity of the policies between Trump and Biden because they essentially work for the same people, right? Like, my position on American politics is that it's all vanity projects, that all U.S. presidents and all Congress people essentially work for the benefit of the ruling class. If they didn't work for the benefit of the ruling class, they wouldn't be there. And you can see that in figures like Dennis Kucinich, right? That, like, Dennis Kucinich was actually interested in working on behalf of people, and they literally redrew the boundaries of his state and got rid of his seat so that Dennis Kucinich was no longer a congressperson. Like, that's what happens in Congress if you actually attempt to do things for the benefit of the people as opposed to the benefit of the ruling class. And so, to me, like, in terms of, like, what's the difference between Trump and Biden in terms of the benefit to the people? Nothing. Literally zero. Like, zero. 0% of anything. Like, both of them are going to do what the military-industrial complex says. Maybe they'll go through slightly different channels, and maybe they'll have slightly different focuses, but They're both going to do what they they're both going to do what corporate power wants. They're both going to do what the military-industrial complex wants. They're both going to do what the healthcare industry wants. Like, the differences are small, and not really worth delving into, frankly. So, like, and that's more or less my opinion on United States politics. That it's all vanity projects. That's all it is now. There's no such thing as somebody being like, we're gonna run and get in there and actually change something. No, they're not. Like, the system is over. Like, it's finished. It's done. Staz, good to see you, bud. Donnie's gonna get arrested. That would be crazy, dude. That would be absolutely crazy if he actually gets arrested. I feel like we are gonna look at, like, more. This is gonna create more violence. Watson, I'm afraid Hedges' degradation and deciding with fascists, blah, blah, blah. Just sort of boring, bud, honestly. Like, where's your anti-war movement? Right? Like, where's your anti-war movement? Straight up. Like, I got to call it for what it is, dude. Like it's big talk for somebody who has no anti-war movement whatsoever. Right? Like, if the left wants to have any credibility on this point, the left needs an anti-war movement of itself. Just, sorry. Walter Matterson has been trolling the Trumpanzees in New York City. All right. Michael Fine, hi again, comrade. Oh, are you the fellow from TikTok? You made the journey. You made the trip. Good to see you, bud. Good opportunity, guys, to say please like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Hit the bells. Hit the whistles. Do all the stuff. Do all the things. Right. If you have $1 jangle around your pocket, and you would like me to become more politically active, please, for the love of God, donate it to my Patreon. Gets you into the Discord. Should I actually have any free time to produce anything outside of this, that's where I produce it and get it into people's hands there. Please consider donating, but at least hit the like button. That's free to do. And a big shout out to my Patreons. Big shout out to people who are already donating. Thank you so much for supporting me. Thank you so much for what you do. I really appreciate it. That if we have a hope in hell of people like me becoming politically active and getting involved seriously in the political system, it will be through donations from people like you. So thank you very much. The hush money. The hush money, dude. Oh my God. It's gonna, that guy says they need to jail him for some time at least, say 30 days. Not that the American justice system had any credibility left, but he needs to do some time. I mean, the country, like, my concern over this is that the country is so divided that this kind of thing is just going to fracture it further. Like, the Trump people and the Republicans are not going to... they're not going to bend the knee to this. They're not going to say, this was justice, this was well served. That's not what they're going to do. That should Trump be arrested, and especially if Trump spends any time in prison, it's going to widen the political gulf, and it's going to continue the process of balkanization, right? It's going to continue that process of fracture that exists in America. For regular listeners, for people who spend any time with me, you're gonna find out pretty fast that my position is that the country is fracturing, that the country is going to break apart, that the empire is going to balkanize. That's historically what does happen to empire, and this is the process by which it is occurring. And it'll only become extremely obvious to the mass of the people once the first state declares its independence. But the process is happening. And things like this are only going to make it worse, right? That sure, like, the Democrats and probably even, like, undecideds in the middle and centrists are probably sitting there being like, yeah, like, he probably deserves to go to jail. But to me, I think the irony of all of it, and I said it earlier, but I'll say it now with a little bit more seriousness, is that the irony of it is that Donald Trump is going to be arrested and potentially face jail time for essentially giving some money to a porn star when past United States presidents are literally genocidal maniacs. Like, this is the America that you live in. That, oh my goodness, Trump gave some of the money that was donated to him as a campaign contribution. He gave it to a porn star in order to hush her up about something. You know, so it's like the lowest possible of scandals. Like it doesn't get much lower than this. Like literally like paying off a mistress. That's his great undoing. Meanwhile, like Bush murdered 1 million people. Obama had the drone program. Clinton literally destroyed and dismantled the welfare system. Like, this is the great irony of it all. This is the great irony of it all. Kevin, good to see you, bud. Hey, big story coming out of California. San Jose Police Union exec was smuggling fentanyl for 8 years out of a police union headquarters. Yeah, sounds normal, Kevin. Like, I know that's actually a big story. I don't want to downplay it, but, like, yeah. You know what I mean? To me, that's very similar to how the school shootings are for me now. That, like, a school shooting happens, and I'm not going to be like, oh, whoa, a school shooting. Like, it's not how I'm going to be. Right? It's straight up not how I'm going to be. I'm going to sit here and be like, yeah. And so I feel very much that way with that story. That San Jose Police Union exec was smuggling fentanyl for 8 years out of a police union headquarters. Yeah. Like, absolutely. Right? Yeah. Man. Sometimes I think people just type things because they want to hear themselves. They just want me to say the things, right? No, but we got a YouTube thing going on here. If you can read. If you can read. Anyway. Yeah, it's totally predictable. Like, it's completely, like, right in front of us. It is good to see it and to say it out loud and to be part of what's going on and understand it. But, like, I don't know, like, so much of what's happening in the world now, I'm just kind of like, you know? Like, what would shock me now? Like, what, now that we've gone through, like, the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, now that we've gone through, like, even the wars in the Middle East and all of this, and like the obvious betrayal of the American working class, the complete decline of like what would be a story that would actually make me go, oh, whoa? It would straight up have to be like Donald or like Joe Biden. Joe Biden would like trip. And his face would get caught on the side of a podium, and his mask would tear off, and he'd be like a reptile, and then he would like slither away. That would be the only thing that would have me going like, okay. Michael says, just subscribe to your Patreon. Thank you, Michael. I value and appreciate that. I've been following your content for a bit now on TikTok because it's easily some of the most sophisticated modern communist content I've seen on the platform. Michael, fucking that's a nice thing that you just said there, dude. That's a real nice thing that you just said there, dude. That makes me feel real good about myself, bud. I really, really value and appreciate what you just said there. Because I got to tell you, over the last couple of days, because my TikTok feed, like the people I follow and the people I get connected with, are, in my view, way, way more intelligent than I am, are way, way more articulate than I am, way more technical, way more researched, and it makes me feel like I'm not doing a good enough job, and it makes me feel a bit demoralized about what I'm doing, and like, am I ever going to get there? Am I ever going to get to the place where I'm able to do this full time? But to hear anybody tell me that some of the most sophisticated modern communist content I've seen on the platform, that's very kind of you to say, dude. That's very, very kind of you to say. And it only encourages me to continue doing what I'm doing. Because honestly, I feel like all I'm doing and all I've ever done is look at what's going on, speak from the heart, and try to tell the truth based on Marxist principles based on reality. And I just hope it works out. In many ways, I'm just sort of throwing my lot in with the wind and hoping that the wind blows my way, you know? And so it seems like hopefully it'll go that way. You know, hopefully it will go that way. One time I could use it going my way. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, it's what we expect, right? Yeah. Watson, let me get this straight. Special armed men and women of the state are engaging in corrupt behavior in San Jose? Shocker. Yeah, that's essentially it, Watson. Yeah, radio. The cops are corrupt? Whoa, wait a minute. Timothy J. Bowlby? Timothy J. Bowlby. Dude, are you British? That's a pretty British name, dude. Like, the fact that you typed in to YouTube at any point in your life, Timothy J. Bowlby, very British. Just saying. Have I had a chance to listen to Noam Chomsky's recent conversation with Daniel Ellsberg? I saw that conversation, but I haven't had the chance to sit down and listen to it. And I don't know that I was very much like... I've listened to a lot of Chomsky. So I feel like if I sit down and listen to that particular interview, I'll hear a lot. Like Chomsky, it's sort of mean to say, I guess, or I don't mean it to be, but like he repeats himself a lot. And I understand why. He does a ton of interviews with a ton of different people, and he's got like the things that he wants to say, and he knows what he's talking about. And so my concern is that I'm going to sit down and listen to that interview, and it'll basically be the interview that I've heard before. And if it isn't, let me know. Like if you feel like there's something really interesting and powerful in there, I'll probably seek it out a little bit more, because no, Chomsky's great. I have my criticisms of Chomsky. Like my only real criticism of Chomsky is that when it comes to his analysis of communism, I don't actually think it's very deep. I think that there are other writers who have gone deeper, who have like Michael Parenti is deeper in regards to an analysis of communism and socialist movements around the world. That Chomsky is very, very, very powerful domestically. When it comes to what's going on in America, what's happening in America, what America does in the world, and what it does in terms of its own borders, Chomsky is very, very nuanced and very, very deep. But when it comes to his analysis of other nations, and especially communist nations, pretty shallow. Michael says, yeah, and you get the dialectical materialism and Marxist perspectives. Yeah, I mean, I feel like once that kind of gets locked in, like a lot of things make a lot more sense. And it took a long time, right? It took a long time. Like I was raised a fundamentalist Christian. I literally spent the first quarter of my life believing that a wizard was coming back at any moment, and argued for that and lost friends over it, and like all that kind of dumb shit that's associated with that. And then kind of spent the next quarter just sort of winding about and not really understanding what was going on, and not even trying to understand what was going on, literally just trying to find my feet. And then finally, it was actually, funnily enough, it was Jordan Peterson that finally did it. That I listened to Peterson, and initially, like a lot of people, I think I listened to Peterson, and I actually found him useful in the moment for my own life. And then I started to listen to his ideas outside of just buck up. You can do it. Do the thing. Stand up straight. You can do it. Right? Like, because he's a rural man from Canada, and I'm also a rural man from Manitoba. He's from Alberta. I'm from Manitoba. I found he connected with me on that kind of a level. But as soon as he gets outside of that and starts doing like analysis, social analysis, he obviously becomes just a boob. Right? He just becomes a total boob. And then one day he said something about Marxists. He said, Marxism is the evilest thing that was ever evil in the evil world. And that was the thing, because my entire life, I would always get into social discussions with people, and I would say, hey, here's a simple solution to the problems that we have in the world. And people would say, oh, that's communism, and don't you know communism always fails? And then that would kind of shut me up, and I would always just kind of go like, oh, like, I mean, why are we talking about this communism thing? I'm literally just like, this is a solution to the problem that's right in front of us. An obvious solution, no less. But, oh, communism also. So it kind of just shut me up. And then finally, when I heard it come out of Peterson's mouth, I was just like, Jesus, man, I need to look into what this communism thing is all about. And so I listened to the Communist Manifesto. And I immediately was like, oh, this is accurate. Like, this is accurate. Like, it's not like it's a no bullshit, just straight up like, yeah, there are owners and there are workers who work for the owners. And those two things are diametrically opposed to one another. And it's a problem that exists in the society. And here's the solution for it. And you're like, oh, yeah, it makes total fucking sense. Then you go on to listen to the works of Marx, right? Capital and all that kind of stuff. And it's just a series of just like, yeah, here's how this is. And you're like, oh, yeah. Like, I just had never had anybody actually just be like, yeah, 1 + 1 = 2. And you're like, oh, yeah, 1 + 1 does equal 2. You know? And that's more or less how I view Marxism. It's just like, oh, yeah, okay, 1 + 1 = 2. Got it. Right? It just if it's not laid out for you, then you can just lose yourself in the noise that capitalism produces as a defense mechanism. That capitalism produces a smokescreen, and and has a series of arguments and a series of defenses for itself. And one of the major defenses that it uses is that communism is evil and it's always failed and it's bad. But if you take like even a cursory glance at it, you realize, like, you just blow the smoke away and you just look at it and you go, no, not only is it accurate, it also works, right? The idea that communism doesn't work is one of the biggest lies that capitalism tells. And it's so pervasive and it's so like deeply ingrained in the society that like people are literally will come in, it's especially bad on TikTok. People come in and are like, what? Communism always fails. When did it ever work? I'm like, what are you even talking about? The Soviets were the first people into space. Like, what are you talking about? Communism obviously worked, right? Like, pretty straightforward. That the communist project in the Soviet Union didn't fail on its own merits. It failed because it was abandoned. And there are reasons for that. But the idea that communism collapsed in the Soviet Union it's a complete farce. Like, it's a farce. It's farcically wrong. So I've just been calling myself a communist ever since, because it's just like, people always called me a communist in the first place, and now I'm standing here and I'm just like, okay, like, seems to me like this is just common sense shit that was laid out by somebody who wanted to analyze the structure of the system from a materialistic perspective. Eric, John, did you see... Oh, good evening, Anemone. Eric says, John, did you see my comment about how you're being published for having long COVID? No shit. Tell me more about that, dude. That's awesome. Yeah, Chomsky's an admitted anarchist. Yeah, that's right. Chomsky seems extremely socialist, but ardently anti-Marxist. Yeah, because he's an anarchist, right? He considers himself an anarchist. And I don't have a problem with that, dude. Like, I don't. I just think that he's, like... I don't want to even speculate, really, on why this is the case. I just think that, like... Yeah, that's all. I think that he has decided that anarchism is the way for him, and he doesn't want to get tied into communism. And I especially think honestly, like, I think from just a position of surviving in America as an intellectual, I think it's just a wise decision. That, like, someone like Chomsky, like, probably looks at what's going on in the West and is like, oh, if I want to be published and have anybody take me seriously, I can't be walking around saying I'm a communist. Like, if I want to be a bit cynical about Noam Chomsky and, like, really, like, talk seriously about basic human behavior, like, Chomsky went through a period, like, he saw McCarthyism, like, he saw what happened to people who stood up and called themselves communists. He saw what happened, right? So he's probably sitting there being like, well, I still want to be on the left, and I still want to be taken seriously, and I still want to do that kind of stuff, but I don't want to be blacklisted. I don't want to be chased out. So I'm not a communist, I'm an anarchist, right? And as far as the American public is concerned, right, that's good enough, you know? Like, it doesn't really... Like, as long as you're not a communist, right? Like, as long as you don't end up, are you or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? Well, Chomsky can say no. Yeah, Eric? I don't know, getting published for it, that sounds pretty cool. The points Ellsberg raised were very interesting and new to me. Okay, man, I'll look it up. I will, because Chomsky's, like, I still respect him a great deal. Like, I shouldn't say still. Like, I obviously respect him a great deal. Like, he's done so many works that are seminal, like, that are absolutely crucial to so many different people in so many different groups. Yeah, it's true, once you throw out the idealism, faith, woo-woo shit, everything starts to make a lot more sense. Yeah. It's sort of crazy that we have to actually try to convince people to look at the world based on what is in the world, right? Like, it's kind of nuts, isn't it? To actually say, like, hey, there's real things that exist in the world, and we have the capacity to create real things in the world. Perhaps we should discuss the real things that exist in the world. It's wild that this is even a position that you have to defend. Like, that's what's wild about Marxism, in my view. That it's even an ism. That there's even just like, oh, you're a Marxist, eh? So you think reality is real and exists. And we should discuss things based on the things that exist and are real? Madness. Like, why is this even a position? John Gautreau, I look forward to your stream every week, brother John. Oh, that's a beautiful thing to say, John. I appreciate that, bud. I really do, man. Like, I've been feeling pretty demoralized this last week. Honestly, I feel like I go through a wave of demoralization every so often. And it's so nice that people come in and say these sorts of things. That's lovely. That guy says the opera The Bluebird's Castle was fantastic. Oh, shit. I should go. I should go. Yeah, Peterson's equation of Marxism to postmodernism openly shows what a clueless boob he is. Yeah. The postmodern neo-Marxist! Ah! Like, he might as well be like a Muppet. Just being like, oh, Marxism! Ah! It's so fucking dumb. So fucking dumb. Yeah, Marxism at its core is basic logic. Oh my god, we've got a guy called Midwestern Commie. Oh, that's a beautiful thing you just said, dude. You're reestablishing my faith in TikTok. Oh my god. Algebra is woke. How can a number identify as a letter? Stupid woke algebra. Yeah, that you're referencing I forget his name, but there's an Asian comedian who was on the Daily Show. I saw this bit, and he's like riffing on wokeism and trying to convince kids to tell their parents that algebra is woke. It's a really good bit. It's a really, really good bit, dude. Yeah, a Wisconsin Quaker Marxist. Fantastic, man. Midwestern Commie. Oh man, I'm so glad to see it. I know. Big shout out. I'm gonna shout this guy out because I really respect him. There's a fellow by the name of Midwestern Marx. You can find him on YouTube. He keeps getting his channel purged from TikTok. His journey is actually pretty incredible. That he's like a wrestler who studies and I don't know if he's a professor, but he definitely teaches about Marx. And he's a young guy too, and he's in like Wisconsin. And he's had his channel on TikTok banned like 7 times. And he just keeps fighting, and he just keeps coming back. And the trajectory is always the same. That he comes back, his channel roars back. Because he's so smart and so well articulated, and he knows what he's doing. And he attracts people back immediately. And he just roars back. Then he gets shadow banned. And so he crawls up. And then he gets big enough that they finally ban him again. And then he creates a new channel, and the process begins anew. And he's done it like 8 times now. And so it's wild to watch this guy do this. And it's wild to see, like, anybody who tells me about, like, well, we should have the freedom of speech. It's like, yeah, you're obviously talking about the freedom to say Nazi shit. That's obviously what they're talking about. Like, when people stand up and are like, we have the right to say the N-word, that's essentially what they're saying. And you know how I can prove it? Because there are communists and Marxists that are getting banned off of these platforms regularly. Midwestern Marx is the biggest one that I know of. And Meanwhile, the fascists and the Nazis get to like own media, right? Like if Ben Shapiro's a Nazi and he owns a major media corporation, right? We should have the ability to say what we like on these platforms, and we should have the ability to own slaves and definitely commit genocides and be as racist as possible. But if you say anything communist, then we get to chase you off. No, Timothy J. Bowlby is my real name. I come from an English-speaking area of Nova Scotia. Oh, very nice. Very nice. I just love it, dude. It's a nice name. It is a nice name. Anyone who equates the works of Marx and Engels to Hubert Marcuse and Theodor Adorno, the Frankfurt School philosophers, is not a serious person and is ideologically clueless. Yeah. I mean, Peterson is ideologically clueless. Like, he's never even read the works of Marx. Like, this is what... Honestly, dude, like, if you want my full assessment of Peterson, he's just a liar. Like, that's all. He's just like a well-trodden liar. And he knows how to lie. And he knows how to lie really well and effectively. That... he rises to prominence based on his quote-unquote protest of a bill that included some language about trans people in a certain piece of legislation. And he turned it into this big, like, if they make me say things that I'll go to jail and I won't blah, blah, blah. It literally was a lie. It wasn't what the bill did. It didn't force him to do anything. It didn't force anybody to do anything. So he just lied bald-facedly to the public about it because he's a bigot, obviously, and a transphobe, obviously, and he just bullshitted everybody, and he just keeps bullshitting everybody. Like this is what's so crazy about him, is that he's obviously a liar, like pretty patently, and now it's gotten like blatant. Because now he's telling enormous lies about climate change. And, like, obviously he's been bought out. Obviously he's been bought out. Oh, dude, guys, this is something I needed to share. This is something I need to... Compton, good to see you, bud. This is something that was on a... this is on an elementary school wall in America. Lockdown, lockdown, lock the door. Shut the lights off, say no more. Go behind the desk and hide. Wait until it's safe inside. Lockdown, lockdown, it's all done. Now it's time to have some fun. Nice little nursery rhyme on like a kindergarten, like right beside it, for those of you on TikTok who aren't seeing it, is like the A, B, C, D, E, F, G alphabet, right? Like... we are a fallen people. We are a fallen people. Grinning, good to see you. Eric says, I'm not able to pay my credit card debt, so I went to collection agency. They refused the cooperation of waiting until I get over long COVID. So essentially, you're forced to get bankruptcy, yeah, or consumer proposal to take me to the court, have your wages garnished. Oh, Jesus, dude. Like, what a blistering annoyance. What a stupid fucking thing. Ugh. Content. Chomsky is 9,000 years old. Go ahead and admit to being a commie. No, I just don't think Chomsky wants to get tied in with, like, Lenin and Mao and all these guys. Like, I think that's really what it comes down to. Grinning says, I rarely define my position to people in conversation. I search for meaningful ways to poke holes in capitalism and let them figure it out for themselves. That's the thing to do. And that way you also avoid the trigger words, right? You guys know me. I don't believe in many conspiracy theories, but I believe in one. And that one is that the CIA is hypnotizing us through phones to implant us with trigger words so that when we hear words like communism, when we hear words like socialism, when we hear words like welfare, we just lose our minds and everything shuts off. We just lose the ability to have reason. You can see that most readily in... the word welfare, that there have actually been polls done that if you ask people like, hey, do you think that we should give aid to the poor? If you say it that way, do you think that we should give aid to the poor? People are like, absolutely, like 70% support. People are like, yes, absolutely, 70% support, aid to the poor. We got to help poor people. We got and that's across the board in America, 70% support. But if you say welfare, it drops down to 30. So that means that 40% of the public is just like, welfare? I ain't giving no welfare, 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 and literally flip their position. So straight up, there are buzzwords that mean aid to the poor that you hit people with and they just lose their minds. And they're just like, no, get your government hands off my welfare. Like, they just lose it. So I absolutely believe in this. That when we finally do another church commission on the CIA and the documents come out and they're like, yes, it was Operation Touch and Go. The CIA was actively hypnotizing people through phones. I'll just hold it up to you guys and be like, hey, here you go. Called it. Yeah, he never talks to genuine Marxists, only naive college kids. Like, I would ask who you're talking about, but that's basically all of them, right? Like, that's essentially Peterson, Shapiro, Crowder, right? Like, these guys are as disingenuous as it gets. They have millions of dollars and they can't bring a real Marxist on. They can't talk to a real Marxist. Like, this is why they're frauds, right? Like, they're only willing to talk to, like, semi-literate college kids. And when they encounter a college kid that is literate, they just move on. They just leave, right? And like, but they could get Richard Wolff. They could have a conversation with Richard Wolff. There are others. There's a really big Marxist teacher who I'm completely blanking on right now that had an interaction with Peterson on Twitter recently, and just chumped him, just made him look like a total idiot. And they could have like a genuine conversation with these guys. It would be easy. It would be easy for them to set up, and they don't. And there's a reason why they don't, because they're frauds, and it's pretty obvious. Yeah. He's basically a wooden wind-up toy now. Put on them tank treads. Yeah, and Peterson is like his strategy is just obfuscation through like nonsense, basically. Just a smokescreen. Like, that's what they're doing with him. That, well, the trouble with climate change is that you can't really analyze it because the climate is everything, and everything you can't really find it. So there's so many variables that it's not really possible to create a model of why, because everything is, and it's like the story of the grasshopper and the chicken, where if the chicken goes and finds a grasshopper, and you're like listening to it, and you're like, he talks for like half an hour. And he gets to the end of it, and you realize that the whole story was just him winding you up for a half hour so he could be like, and that's why the pants go on before the shoes. And you're like, what the fuck did I listen to this garbage for? It's just fucking nonsense. The issue with critical theory is that it's the new left outcome of its demoralization and its incorrect idea of putting identity issues before the class issues that are the cause of them. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Hey, John, I imagine most here share the values of justice, egalitarianism, anti-oppression, freedom, the right to bodily autonomy. Ethically, it seems obvious that we should all be vegan. Not only is animal agriculture a significant contributor to global warming and antibiotic resistance, but the exploitation of non-human animals is antithetical to these aforementioned values. Animal agriculture and exploitation is peak capitalism. Eliminating animal agriculture would permit sufficient food to feed everyone on Earth. Why are we not pushing for this critical change in the way we treat those with whom we share the planet? I mean, theoretically, like in theory, I actually do agree with you completely. Like, we should be moving towards veganism. I know for myself, I try, and I'm not perfect at it. I don't buy meat. Like, I don't bring meat into my home. So, like, my position has become that if I encounter meat out in the world, I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to, like, plant my feet on it. But I just don't buy it for myself. Although, I definitely bought some chicken recently because I wanted to put spice on it and kill myself with spice. As I say, I'm not perfect. But the trouble, I think, is that human weakness. That the consumption of meat has become a vice. I think that's really the truth. That it's beyond like we're doing this for survival, or we're doing this to become big and strong. We're doing this to do any of that kind of stuff. Like, it's become a luxury good. It's become a decadence in many ways, and we are consuming it and eating it that way. And so challenging that is so difficult, because I think people see eating meat as the center of their identity. That, like, if you say to certain people in the society, and I don't think it's a small amount of people, I really don't think it's a small amount of people, that, yeah, we're going to stop eating meat, I think you would have, like, a literal fight. Like, a literal fight. And I don't think it would be based on reason or rational. Because what you just said, I think, is very reasonable. I think it's based in reasonable thinking, rational thinking, ethical thinking, and fundamentally, I think it's correct along those lines. And I try to live my life along those lines. But I think that if you attempted to enforce it from a governmental perspective, that you would have a major physical gun shooting fight. Like, that's how entrenched that is in the society. Like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. So it's tough. That's a tough one, dude. And I feel like the same story is with, like, cars. I think car culture is very much the same in this society. Like, we are going into a decline, and it is for these reasons that we have these luxury goods, and we have these toys that we use, and we have these ideas about what the society should look like and how we should be in the society, that are essentially vices. And we're essentially just like, I want a car for my own convenience, even though all you really do is go from point A to point B, and that could be mass transit. But theoretically, at any point, you could jump into your vehicle and go anywhere, but you don't. Not really, right? Like, you just kind of go from point A to point B, and we should have a public transit system that permits that to happen in a very easy way. But you have this idea in your mind that, like, I could go across the country at any moment if I want to, right? And so that idea is infused. And it's very much the same way with, like, eating meat. That I genuinely think that there are millions of people that if you told them, yeah, like, no more chicken, no more beef, no more of that kind of stuff, where's my gun? And we're going to go shoot some people and figure this out. Like, straight up. I think it would escalate that quickly. So, that's a tough one. Bank failures are woke. Yeah. Doom to Bloom says, actually, John, I think there is something that will shock you, and it happened in Canada. Posted in general in Discord. Here we go. Here we go. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? In Canada, pigeon wearing a backpack has been arrested after it was caught attempting to a package of crystal meth into a prison. Is this real? Pigeon caught smuggling crystal meth into Abbotsford Correctional Facility. Bro. I gotta tell you, impressive. Very, like, carrier pigeons have always been a thing, but the fact that, like, you know, nature finds a way. God finds a way, you know, we got you in prison for crystal meth, probably. So they have carrier pigeons smuggling crystal meth into a prison in British Columbia. Wow. I'm mainly impressed. This is ingenuity right here, right? Is this the capitalist innovation that I keep hearing all about? Yeah, when it comes to getting drugs, drug users suddenly become, like, Fucking Rain Man. They suddenly just become like literally training pigeons. Yeah, we got to use this, man. We got to use this intelligence. Why are we squandering the intelligence of these people? We got to find a way to harness this intelligence and funnel it into things that are good. It's very impressive. That's impressive. Content, I'm currently woke right now and I don't even have coffee. Thanks for sharing this, Doom to Bloom. Dude, this is hilarious. Maybe not shocking. Hold on, I think, yeah, that's what's going on. Midwest Mark says, Eddie Ligger Smith. Yeah, amazing, yeah. No. Yeah. He's great, dude. Yeah, unapologetically based for sure. I've learned a lot from him, I think is the thing. Like that if I were to ever end up in a situation with Eddie, like, and I don't think this will happen, but if I were to suddenly end up on like a panel or something, or if we were to even talk to one another, and if he were to correct me on something, I would just accept it. Like that's how confident I am that he knows more about the subject than I do. That I would say something and then he would be like, actually, and I'd probably be like, oh, okay, like, and I wouldn't push back because I have faith. I have faith in his knowledge of the subject. And then if I went and found out that wasn't the truth, I would dunk on him and I'd be like, ha, fuck you, Eddie, I was right. That's what I would do. Oh yeah. Yeah, this is mortifying, this fucking nursery rhyme that I just read. Dude, it broke my heart. I had to show it to you guys. The fact that they are actually, like, putting this in schools. The fact that this is actually a thing that is happening in schools. Yeah, hey, at least it fits with all the other nursery rhymes. Yeah, ring around the daisy shit. Yeah. This is trauma. Like, this is major, major trauma. We are traumatizing people with this shit. People will talk about this kind of thing the way that boomers talk about hiding under their desks for nuclear drills, right? Like this is the kind of crazy shit that's going on. Yeah, the Christofash really show their true colors when discussing trans issues, don't they? Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday, bud. Yeah. So indentured servitude, yeah. And the worst part, this is from Eric again, I have to do this because I won't be able to get any more student loans until you pay it off. Yeah. Like, think about how blisteringly stupid all of this is. Like, people like me should go back to school, right? Like, I shouldn't be doing this. I should be going back to school, right? Like, I went to school and I got a degree. Well, why did you get a degree that capitalists wanted you to get and all that kind of dumb shit? Right? Oh, okay, well, let me. No? Oh, okay. So we're done, right? Like, people should be able to go to school, and people should be able to retrain, and people should be able... Wasn't that the whole shtick? Yeah, it's completely fine for us to rip up all of the manufacturing and ship it overseas, because we'll just retrain all of those people, right? And then they didn't. And they said, yeah, it'll be $100,000 for a degree, please. Yeah, that seems right. That seems normal. Like, why do you think we're in decline? Like, we're not educating anybody. And why are we not educating anybody? Because it doesn't make capitalists money immediately. Like, it's so fucking stupid. It's so fucking backwards. It's so fucking dumb. And you've got to be dumb to think that it's a good idea to do. Like, and it's all tied up in this whole, like, well, why should I pay for someone else's education? Because you don't want to live in a society full of stupid people. You don't want to live in a society that's in retrograde. You don't want to live in a society that's degrading this way. You want to live in a society that's progressing. You want to live in a society that's capable of making intelligent decisions for itself based on information, right? Which, incidentally, is what the rest of the world is doing. That the rest of the world is like, yeah, we're going to pay for our kids to be educated so that they are educated and can actually contribute to the world and to the society and build a better society. And they're eating our lunch completely, while we're just like, well, I guess I'm going to go work at a Starbucks for the rest of my life. Because, like, because you got a degree in an industry that got torn apart the minute you graduated. Right? That happens all the time. People take degrees in things that seem stable, that seem to make sense, and then the minute they graduate, the industry collapses because tech bro shit, right? And so, well, I guess I'll go back and retrain. Oh, okay, that'll be another $50,000. Well, I don't have it. Can I get a loan? No, you owe us $50,000. Oh, well, I guess I'll work at Starbucks for the rest of my life. Like, and if you think this shit doesn't happen, you're dumb. Like, the tablet talks. That's a very evocative name, dude. I don't think I've ever seen you here before, just with a nice little LOL. The tablet talks. Dude, that's like you're an AI. I feel like I would be talking to a robot. Yeah, Peterson tried that with Slavoj Žižek, who's not a really good Marxist at all. He got totally clowned. Yeah, that debate was done in Toronto. Yeah, Žižek showed Peterson a lot of mercy. I agree with that. And that's just it. Like, Žižek showed Peterson a lot of mercy, and he still got annihilated. Like, he got completely dunked on and completely looked like a total chump. While Žižek, Žižek was saying to Peterson, saying very basic, normal, rational things that any person of any sort would say. That don't you feel that we need some kind of organization that exists to respond reasonably to reality? Like, and this Peterson was like, I mean, I guess. Like, it's just, or my favorite moment was when Žižek was just like, who are these Marxists that you're talking about? Who are these postmodern Marxists that you're all talking about taking over everything? And Peterson was like, bah, like a dumbass, because Peterson's a dumbass. Like, and you know Peterson's a dumbass because he thought he was going to go into that conversation and do well. Like, and he got completely clowned by somebody who, like, literally was basically just like I shouldn't say literally, but basically just like a Care Bear. That Slijov just kind of came over and put his, like, fuzzy little arms around Peterson and was like, it's okay, Jordan. We are here together. And it is okay that we are fighting, but soon we will all be, it's okay, Jordy. And Peterson was just like, postmodern, Content, Financial Times out here admitting that the multipolar, multi-currency world is here and we should prepare. Yeah, it's undeniable now. Like, they can't stop it. Like, they straight up can't stop it. They're not going to be able to stop it. And, like, we are absolutely, like, the decline of the dollar is coming, and nobody's ready for it. Nobody is ready for it. Nobody is going to be like, everybody is going to be completely blindsided by it. Everybody is going to, like, panic about it. There's going to be a huge fucking panic. The fascists that are in power are going to make a series of extremely bad decisions very quickly. It'll likely kick off a war that we'll lose. Like, and the rest of the world is just going to look at us and be like, so what is it that you make? Like, what is it you do exactly? And we're going to be like, we drop bombs on defenseless children. Take our dollars, or we'll drop bombs on you. And they're going to be like, no. And that's it. That's the whole conversation. And we're just going to go, and implode. Like, it's fucked, dude. It's super, super fucky. Yeah, Peterson got destroyed, but he was allowed to keep his dignity. Yeah. Like, Zizek could have just, like, leaned right into him, dude. Could have just absolutely blown it up. Cotton, we should reduce meat consumption. We're also approaching lab-grown meat. Yeah, that's true. How's it a wash? I think it's a wash. Like, I just don't think you're going to have the majority of the populace go along with it. Straight up. Like, I think that if you actually were to try to implement something like that, you would have a civil war. Like, if you go to, like, rural Canada and talk to rural men about not eating meat, they'll be like, where's my gun? And it gets there right away. And we shouldn't pretend like that doesn't happen. Like, it's right there. It's top of mind. Absolutely. Where's my steak? That like, you can see this. There are comedy shows where, like, the guy walks in and he sits down and somebody puts a salad in front of him and he goes, "Where's my steak?" And then they have a conversation about it, and then he gets up and leaves and goes to a restaurant to get a steak. Like, that is real. That happens. I've seen this happen. Like what's a great line, right? Food that my food eats is not food. Grinning, cheese is the crack of food. So hard to resist mac and cheese. It's my one big struggle while trying to stay vegan. Yeah, I've managed to get cheese out of there. I just don't buy it. You know, that to me is the secret. You go to the grocery store and you just buy what you're gonna eat. I'm a big fan of potatoes. I do real well with potatoes. Yeah, Cotton, we should produce lab-grown meat. We can apparently make meat through just biopsies of animals instead of killing them. Yeah, I think that this is right. And I think that this is, like, a good way forward, right? Like, why shouldn't we do that? I'm not anti-technology. Like, why shouldn't we do that? Meat is more than nutrition. It's a cultural signifier. Yeah, Nat's crazy? Probably not, dude. I get a lot of Nazis on here, so probably not, bro. You come over to YouTube. Thoughts on anarchism? Most of the time, anarchism. When I talk to anarchists, I find myself nodding along and being like, yep, absolutely, yep, I agree completely. Really and truthfully, the only thing that I find myself really disagreeing with anarchists on is that we do need a centralized state to defend against external threats. Like, straight up. Like, if you actually think you're going to be able to build a society on, like, horizontal organizational principles and the United States isn't just going to roll through you with a military, you're fucking wrong. And that's really the loggerheads that I come to with anarchists. Everything else, I'm just like, yeah, absolutely. I find myself doing this a lot. Correct. Yes, absolutely. For sure. But then, what do you do about the United States military? Well, you need a strong, powerful, centralized bureaucracy that is agile enough to counter the forces that the Americans are going to throw at you. Oh, so communism. You need a powerful, centralized state. Sorry. Like, you need it. It's a practical reality. So, yeah. The SpongeBob shirt looks like it fit 5 years ago. I don't know if it ever fit. Like, I don't know. It's just a silly shirt. Give me the mystery steak ball from the lab right now. Let's go. Yeah. Look at the 15-minute cities. The 15-minute cities is giving conservatives fits. Yeah, because conservatives are dumb. Like, they're trying to do a fascism on us because they're taking away our cars. Like, when we hit the point where fossil fuel vehicles are no longer going to be financially possible, there's going to be, like, an enormous cultural ripple that happens through the society. Tons of these rural conservative types are going to be like part of their identity is going to go away because they base, like, take a look at the truck people, like these people who have these big performative trucks. Well, all of that is going to go away. They're simply not going to be able to afford to run them, right? So you're going to have this major cultural shift that happens in the society because all of these just, like, performative F. Trudeau guys with these big trucks that they don't use are not going to be drivable. So it's going to be pretty crazy to watch. Yeah, reducing meat consumption doesn't change the fact that we are breeding, torturing, enslaving, and murdering sentient beings. Yeah, I mean, that's tough. I mean, that to me, that is the big thing. There was this great movie that I watched that I'm blanking on the title of. Oh, that's gonna fucking kill me, dude. It came out, like, it's Brad Pitt's production company. It came out right around the same time as War Machine did. It's about a it's about a young lady who has as a pet, who is her friend, essentially a genetically modified pig, who is just like this massive creature, with the idea being that they like created these pigs in order to take them and then slaughter them. And so they come and they take the pig, and then it's her journey of finding this pig in order to save the animal. And they take you through like the slaughterhouse, and they take you through the thing, and you fall in love with this pig, and you get, and then she saves them. Spoiler alert. But that was a big moment for me, where I was like, I went through a big period of veganism after that, because it was very profound. And I actually do think like people do need to get more reconnected to their food. Like, people should go to slaughterhouses. I strongly believe that part of our education should be, okay, kids, we're going to a slaughterhouse today, and people should see how this works. They should witness it with their own eyes. But of course, that's not permitted. There are literally laws to permit that very thing from happening, because I think both those industries understand what would happen. Because if you witnessed it, I think you would immediately think to yourself, oh shit, I gotta stop doing this. Like, for me, it's the torture side of it. Like, I'm not against the idea of ranching and all of that. And I'm from rural Manitoba, and I'm from the prairies. I've seen ranching, right? But these factory farms that exist are evil. There's just no other way to describe it. They're evil. Like the debeaking, this kind of crazy shit that goes on. Like, it's evil. And there's no other word to use. That's why my position has become that, like, if I buy meat for myself, I try to get the stuff that I know is, like, free range. I try to get the stuff that's not factory farmed. Because, first of all, it tastes better. It's better for you. And so, but it's difficult. Like, it's difficult. Meat is part of the North American ethos and the North American culture. Like, it's part of what we are and what we espouse to be, right? Cities should be 5-minute cities. Fight me. No, I'm not going to fight you on that, for sure. Like, this is what's so crazy about the 15-minute city fight at all. Is, like, the idea of amenities should be nearby. Like, these people are so detached and psychopathic that if you say, and stupid, that if you say amenities should just be nearby, they're like, that's the end of civilization, as far as they're concerned. Like, it's so dumb. Like, I should have a grocery store that's within walking distance is a crisis for these guys. Like, basically, it's conservatives' lack of understanding what 15-minute cities are. I mean, I just think that they don't, like, if you don't actually have things to say, and if you can't engage honestly and critically with what's going on in the world, then you need to generate controversy about something. That's what I really think is actually going on for the most part with a lot of these Republicans and a lot of the conservative right. Like, you have to generate a lot of content, and none of your content can actually engage seriously with the world, because you're tied up in this religious ideology of money worship, worship of the self, and the worship of stupidity. You're tied up in this, and so you can't engage meaningfully with worker struggle. You can't engage meaningfully with, like, an anti-war thing. You can't really engage meaningfully with reality. And so you have to generate bullshit. And I think that's more or less what these 15-minute city, like, what the conversation around the 15-minute city are. It's just generate a bunch of bullshit about nothing. Like, it's essentially Jordan Peterson's career. Just generate bullshit about nothing, whip up hysteria, whip up people's concerns about things, without actually pointing out that the thing they're concerned about is not happening at all, and just generate hysteria. And as long as you're generating hysteria and getting people focused on this nonsense bullshit story that you're talking about, then they won't be talking about, like, hey, maybe we should unionize. Like, maybe unions are good, right? Like the right can't actually have real, serious, genuine conversations about, unions. Are they good? Because if they actually did engage in that conversation, they would lose, and they would lose very handily, right? And so they're not taking these fights that they know that they'll lose. So they can't talk about Marxism, and they can't talk about unions, and they can't talk about the labor movement, and they can't talk about the civil rights movement, not seriously, with serious people. They can't have these serious conversations because they know they'll lose. And so they've got to have conversations about nonsense. And if they do engage in the conversations about serious issues, they have to talk to nonsense people. So they'll have, like, Prager on. They'll talk to, like, fucking Dennis Prager about fucking these issues instead of, like, getting a serious person on. It's my major critique of Joe Rogan. That Joe Rogan was absolutely instrumental in kicking off this anti-trans shit that's going on right now. He absolutely is central and core to what is going on now with the trans community. And he has essentially just walked away from the mess that he created. That he platformed a bunch of fucking Nazis, a bunch of hyper far-right people and super huge losers in order to whip up a bunch of far-right rhetoric, and has always refused to platform a trans rights activist. He has never once had a trans rights activist on his show. And so he basically set off a nuclear bomb against the trans movement, said, yeah, but good speech beats bad speech, and then never platformed the good speech. Like, he for every single trans person that gets shot down, Joe Rogan, he might as well put his name on the bullet. No doubt. And until he platforms an anti-trans activist, that's my position on him. Marcus, good to see you. How's your week, John? I've been watching your VODs after your live. That's nice of you, Marcus. It's going well, bud. It's going well. I'm having a good one today. Yesterday was a tough stream. Thanks, Eric. It was good, though. It was good. Today is a bit more of a faff stream, which I'm happy. I wanted that. Carrier pigeons are drug runners, yeah. Probably trained by George Soros in the WEF. Yeah, cheese, dude. Lentil sloppy joes, yeah, I went through a period of time with those. Sloppy Joe, sloppy Joe, sloppy Joe, sloppy Joe. Dude, I gotta speed up. I gotta speed up on the chat. You guys are like, wow, John, that Zizek impression, A+. Yeah, I like doing impressions. And so my Joe Biden needs a lot of work, dude. It's because Joe Biden has no personality. So you gotta really just this is him, right? You just like squint your eyes. You know, the thing about America is the greatest country in America. God bless America. That's basically Joe Biden, and it's just like, and my Trump sucks. I've never been able to capture Trump. Yeah, like, Fabala, like, I got suckered into a private art school for a diploma because I didn't know the difference when I was 18 between a public and private university, so now I can't afford to get an actual degree. Yeah. Like, when you're 18 and your parents aren't very well, like, your parents likely aren't educated as well, and so you don't really know what's going on. But also on top of this, like, my thing has always become, when I was going to school, when I was going to university, and when I was doing this kind of stuff, my father owned a business where people with grade 9 educations were able to walk into his business and get jobs that bought houses, cars, supported spouses and families, and let them have vacations and all this kind of stuff. And these jobs were everywhere when I was going to school. And so the idea that, oh, well, I'm going to go to university to take this degree in the arts or this other kind of thing, well, that makes all the sense in the world to take that kind of a risk, to enrich your life that way, to challenge yourself, to learn something about humanity and all that kind of stuff, because if it all falls through and it all goes tits up, well, that's okay. You'll just walk in the door of a facility like a guy with a grade 9 education did a generation back from you and get a job that buys a house, right? Like, that makes all the sense in the world. And then we're told that we're the idiots because they destroyed the economy and then told us to, oh, you should have got a better degree. Like, it's a fraud. It's a grift. They're gaslighting us. They destroyed the economy. They turned an economy where uneducated boobs could get houses for standing in front of a grinder going, grr, 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 grr. They destroyed that and then told us it was our fault. Like, we live in a psychopath society, and that's all the evidence you fucking need for it. Oh, that guy. I interpreted your statement in regards to mean that we should take incremental, gentle steps, which you wouldn't say about slavery. No, I just mean that you're going to have a war. Like, that's the truth. Like, if you want the war, it's there. Like, that's and I don't know that there are, like, what could you do? Like, what could you do? Like, what incremental, gentle steps do you think you could take, even? Like, the people who want to eat a steak every night want to eat a steak every night. And they're not going to say... And if they can't eat a steak every night, then that's a crisis. Right? That's a crisis for them. So what do? And if you tell them they can't, it's a war. Like, I'm just laying it out for what it is. Like, it's and I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I'm just telling you what the reality of that is. I've actually become quite exhausted. I see it all the time on the internet. People stand up and say, we need to end this. It's like, it's not going to fucking happen. Your declaration of it isn't a thing, right? Like, what we need to do is actually gather and surround the halls of power and collapse this system before we can even begin talking about anything else, right? So, and I take a look at this issue, veganism, and this whole thing, and it's very similar. It's like, we need to commit to veganism. Okay, you have a war then. That's the truth. Like, that's the sad truth. Watson, spectacular imitation with the actual sniffs and ticks. Well, look, Zizek's not that hard to pull off. I think everybody can do Zizek, right? You just need to splash. This, you gotta do this. So you're essentially just like Milhouse. Or not Milhouse, but you're just wearing braces. So every time you're talking like this, and then you put on the accent, it's not Russian. I don't know where he's from, but he rolls his R's very much like this all of the time, and then you just sniff. So you just do this, and you do the sniff, and if you get really into it, you can do the pulls. He does that all the time. I don't know what it's all about. He looks like a cokehead, if you ask me. Like, the first time I saw Zizek, I was just like, this guy's doing a lot of coke. This guy's doing a lot of coke. And maybe that's not true. Maybe that's mean of me to say. Like, maybe that's like, closed-minded or whatever. But looks to me pretty straightforwardly. Yeah, lab-grown meat is not a baby step. That's true. Like, lab-grown meat would be like a big flip on what was going on. Trendy Lib says eating bugs will save the earth. Yeah, it's a qualitative difference in people willing. Yeah, it can make a quantitative difference. I do think that people who eat meat would accept that. I don't think that they would, like, they just want the meat. That's all. No, that guy, like, I understand I get what you're saying. I just understand that, like, there's going to be a consequence over it. I thought you were going to say he did a mass shooting over not having steak. Yeah. Yeah, do you have guns big enough to make us go vegan? No, that guy, your comment is, John, I'm sorry, but then we shouldn't be talking about communism or socialism or redistribution of wealth because people will run for their guns to protect their shit. Yeah, they will. But my point is that we've got to focus on there are steps. Like, what do you want to fight for? What do you want to fight over? Where do you want to push your chips all in? Where are you willing to plant your feet? When are you willing to form the line and have the barricades and storm the gates and have the police shooting smoke at you? When are you willing to do that? What are you willing to do that for? Where's the battle line? And for me, veganism isn't that battle line. For me, the battle line is who owns the means of production? What are we doing about these capitalists? That's the battle line. That's the storming of the gate. That's the police there, us here. That's the line. And veganism is like part of an idea that goes behind that. So I ostensibly agree with all you say about veganism. I agree about all that. But that's not where I'm drawing my battle line. Like, I agree with you. But I don't think you're going to build a movement on it. And if you did build a movement on it, and you started a big fight and a big protest movement and drew the battle lines and did all that kind of stuff, well, then you would get concessions from the capitalist class about it. There'd be a big grumbling about it from everybody, and then the capitalists would continue doing what they do. And it probably wouldn't solve the problem, and the whole thing would be like dusted up and dusted away. So like, what am I actually gonna go on the streets and face cops down for? Probably not this. Tinker X, USA threatened Mexico with tariff sanctions because Mexico nationalized its lithium. Yeah, we reported on that earlier. Not today, but like, you got Republicans being like, we should go to war with Mexico. We should go to war with Mexico. The good opportunity to say like, share, subscribe, hit the bells, hit the whistles, do all the stuff. If you've got $1 jangling around your pocket, please be sure to donate. And if you are already a Patreon, maybe donating $1, maybe make it $2. Thank you to my Patreons. Bless all of you. Somebody's talking about Vosh. Vosh is a CIA spook, dude. Or an FBI informant, at least. Cool beard. Thank you. I am not cross-eyed. I don't know why you see that, but... Fucking... I hate it when people talk about Vosh on my stream, dude. Like, Vosh is, like, at least pedophile adjacent. He's confessed to being an FBI snitch during the Occupy movement. He's obviously a plant. He's 100% he's a pro-imperialist, just liberal, more or less. And the idea that he's like a leftist is sort of a joke. Like, he's never seen a war he doesn't love. And anytime he talks to a Marxist, he gets completely rolled over and looks like a dumbass. Unpopular opinion, but I'm totally okay with my consumption of meat and a balanced diet and sleep fine at night. Yeah, I mean, we're all doing our best, Marcus. Like, that's what it really is. Like, and it isn't about the individual. It's about the structure, right? We're all just doing our best, and you know more about what you need than I do. So that's always been my position, more or less. I've mostly found the F. Trudeau flags and bumper stickers on people with minivans and import sedans. Yeah, talk about performative nationalism, yeah. Tinker, you don't need to go anywhere. Just watch it on YouTube or Docu. You'll be sick to your stomach. Yeah, that's fair. John, you've probably killed a chicken before, being from rural Manitoba. I don't think I've ever killed a chicken, but I've definitely shot some. I've definitely shot things. Like, when you're a kid in rural Manitoba, they give you a gun when you're 12, and you get to go out and shoot things, right? And the general opinion of, like, wildlife in Manitoba is that it's all fair game. And so, like, you and your buddies go out and you go shooting stuff. That's just the hard truth of it. So I've definitely shot stuff before in my life. I don't think I'd ever do it again. It's not something I seek or pursue. I feel people need to try Satan meat. It's a great meat replacement. You can make burgers, steaks, roasts. What is that? Amenities nearby. Been reading... Mr. Moon, good to see you. Been reading about how cops and nurses can't live in the cities they work. Yeah. Well, it's because the rent's too goddamn high. And we've got a housing crisis going on. And the wages don't pay the fucking rent anymore. Like, the whole thing's... Like, that's the center of why it's all falling apart. That, like, professionals can't actually work in the places they need... Or can't live in the places they need to work. It's all going to fall apart. That's why it's going to fall apart. And I feel like what needs to happen is, like, in ancient Athens, the working people would occasionally just gather en masse and leave the city. They would literally walk out of the city and just say to the ruling class, okay, you run it. Right? Like, our owners have lost touch with who actually matters in this. For sure. I moved to a new place. There's a grocery store close by, but it's almost impossible to walk there. Most folks in the building hire or drive a cab. Yeah, it's weird that there isn't just like public transit. Like, just have a public transit system. It's so fucking weird. Meat should be consumed in a 30% animal product, 70% plant-based diet. Completely vegan diets are less healthy, regardless of your empathy for prey animals. I mean, that's a discussion. Ooh. Once all of the ethical considerations are taken care of. The tablet talks. Listening for 10 months. That's a long time, bud. I'm glad to hear that. You have yet to be wrong. I enjoy the graveyard walks the most. Oh, well, I've been trying to get back to doing the graveyard walks, dude. I'm really trying to get them back. And to hear someone like you say that you want that content, I'm going to try to get back to them. Because I think that there is like a dedicated group of people who really like that kind of content and like that. So I'm going to try to get back to doing that. Thanks for your comment, bud. I appreciate that. Big conversation about veganism. I mean, I've been wrong about things for sure, but Danarchist John, I enjoy your theater background and it throws through the stream. You definitely a performer at heart. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Good to know that all that effort wasn't wasted. I actually view my theater degree as like, you know, the psychopath society that we live in really denigrates the arts and really despises the arts, but I take a look at it and think to myself that it was absolutely instrumental in my journey away from fundamentalist Christianity. And anybody who wants to say that it's not valuable to the society to purge it of fundamentalist Christians, I think that's lunacy. That by itself is a major benefit to the society. It's a major benefit to not have people walking around thinking Jesus Christ is coming back at any moment. It's an enormous benefit to the society. And that's what my theater degree accomplished. It managed to pierce the hard core of fundamentalist Christianity and break it apart. And we should definitely be supporting. If that's what people need, if people need to go take like music degrees and theater degrees and English degrees, and if they need to read literature and need to do that kind of stuff to banish these kinds of stupid ideas from their consciousness in order to move the society away from crazy fundamentalist nonsense, then we absolutely should be funding that. We absolutely should be funding that. And to say that we shouldn't is dumb. It's to say that, like, yeah, it's completely fine to have people who think Jesus Christ is coming back at any moment. Like, what do you think's going on in the States? Why do you think there are all these people who are like, we are gonna go after the trans community and purge them for our ranks for the love of Jesus Christ? Jesus Christ is coming back at any moment, and when he descends from the sky, he'll look at the corpses of the trans people broken at our feet, and he'll bestow upon us a holy crown. You followers of Jesus Christ have been doing the work of the Lord, and God bless each and every one of you. You will find riches in heaven. That's the kind of society you want? You're a huge fan of living in that kind of society? Yeah, fund the arts, you fucking losers. Like, fund the arts. Anybody who's going to stand in front of me and say that people are wasting their time taking arts degrees or any of that kind of stuff, they want to live in a society full of lunatics. And you can see it. It's in the South. Just watch it. Danarchist says, I think you educate yourself on what you want to learn, on what nourishes you as a human. Yeah, to hell with the capitalists. I mean, that's the point of an education, don't you think? Like, these aren't vocational schools, and nor should they be. Like, we should, and the fact that they're treated as such kind of tells you the nature of the society and how everything is commodified. That we're basically just commodities to these people. You know? Like, we're not actually humans. It's not about building a society. It's not about building anything. It's just about being good commodities. Like, that's essentially the complaint. Oh, you went and got a degree that didn't make you a commodity? There's your problem right there, idiot. You need to be a commodity. Like, no, I'm not a commodity. Like, I'm a randomly generated creature living in a plane of reality, attempting to discover something about not just it, but also myself within that reality. And I don't think that I should be sold. And I don't think anybody should be sold to anybody else through any mechanism, whether that be through direct purchase, through the purchase of the land that I am tied to legally, or through a type of rentier slavery. Like, people should not be bought and sold. There should be no mechanism. They shouldn't be rented. There should be no mechanism whatsoever. That everyone should be just free to walk around and do what they think is right to do, as long as they're not impinging on somebody else. That if everything is with consent, then it should be fine. And we seem not really capable to understand that, because we think that, no, you need to commodify yourself. You need to sell yourself to a capitalist class. That's right. That's the good thing to do. You're a good person if you're a good slave. And you're not going to be a good slave if you don't commodify yourself. So you got to get yourself a skill that the capitalists value. To hell with the rest of it. Stupid. Like, you really think that the limited time that you have, the miracle of life, should be experienced through the lens of capital ownership. You genuinely believe that you are here exclusively and only to pay bills and then die. You don't think there's something else going on. You don't think there's anything deeper going on. You don't think that there's anything else to explore. You don't think that perhaps the universe has more to offer to you than working in a cubicle for 40 hours a week and then fucking dying. Like, you think this is it. You've done it. Wow. Okay. Good luck with that. I have a friend who, my best friend, in fact, is actively learning. She's learning about herbalism, and she's trying to become an herbalist, and it's actually quite difficult. You got to go through a lot of hoops and loops. I hope she does it, though. I hope she does it, because she's always been attracted. She literally has like shelves of jars of plants in her apartment. And I'm just like, yeah, dude, you need to get like accredited in this. This is the thing. She's really struggling with the chemistry part of it, but I believe in her. Danarchist says, my degree is in physics. Physics isn't for everyone. Yeah, engineering isn't for everyone. People will hate you for putting them in places they do not want to be. Yeah, like and like the goal of capitalism at this point is to try to make the cage as beautiful as possible. That's the whole point. Is to try to create as many baubles and doodads and glittering things and games and you know, sports and to make it as nice as possible. But you can never get over the fact that, like, nobody wants to be doing anything that they're doing, because nobody's doing anything for their own benefit. Everything's being done for the benefit of a group of psychopaths who go to Jeffrey Epstein's island and rape children. Like, that's what's happening. And we're just, like, going along with it. If you're so inclined to eat people, at least make them billionaires. He's Slovenian, yeah, for sure. Thanks, Transylvanian. Does learning about mycology and ecology nourish you as a human? Does it make you want to learn more? Then go out and educate yourself on it. Everything you can find on it. Yeah, absolutely. I know for myself, like, I can't really read fiction anymore. I used to read fiction when I was younger, and fantasy. I was big into fantasy. And then as I've gone along, I just can't do it anymore because it just seems so empty. There's nothing to it. And reality itself is far more interesting. That's what kind of confuses me, I think, today about people who are like big into fantasy and big into fiction and big into these kinds of things. I'm just like, why? Like, what's happening right in front of your face is way more interesting. And I think the response to that is like, oh, it's so depressing. I can't engage with that. It's like, oh, you just need to detach. You just need to detach from the outcome as much as you possibly can. that like you're temporary. Like you're not actually tied to the outcome of this place, right? Like that's the truth. That what happens in this plane of reality doesn't actually have a bearing on you that much, right? You die, you move on, you go somewhere else. Like it's a bummer that it's a bummer that we're betraying our children, like for sure. Like if you care about the idea that we should make the world a better place for the next generation, that's kind of a bummer. But, it's out of your hands, certainly. And as long as you feel like you're doing the best that you can for the next generation, even as we actively betray them, then it turns into an amazing show. Like, reality is an incredible show that I can't spend any time. Like, occasionally I'll find a work of fiction that ties in to reality in a way, but I find most of it is just escapism. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with escapism. The only people who don't want others to escape are jailers. So if you need to escape into another world to try and find a solution to bring it back into this one to solve your problems and all of that, that's wonderful. But it's not for me. I'm fascinated by this show. This show is fascinating. It's insane and bewildering and nonsensical. Like the fact that we're living in a world where we're living in a society that is actively betraying itself. That's the narrative structure of this society. That it's actively working as hard as it possibly can to overtly, overwhelmingly betray itself. And it's a mystery. Why is it doing that? Why is this society working this hard to betray itself? And the only answer I can find, and so my theory of why the society is betraying itself so thoroughly, is that it's fallen into a religious, zealous fervor based on the worship of money, the worship of the self, and fundamentally the worship of stupidity. That it can't come to its senses. It can't look around and say, no. I don't want to betray myself this way. We need to build stable structures. We need to build stability in the society. We need to make sure that the next generation is better off. We need to make sure that we have a stable economy. We need to make sure that these things are good. But we've become entranced by toys, basically. We've become entranced by digital hallucinations. We've become entranced by games. We've become entranced. And there's no serious discussion about the nature of what these toys are doing to our society, right? That there's no serious discussion about what cars are actually doing to the society. There's no discussion about what phones are what these iPhones or computers are doing to the society. There's no serious discussion about what AI is doing. There isn't actually serious discussion happening anywhere that's meaningful. That we're just bombarded with these toys and we're taken by them. That they're glittering fun. We refuse to acknowledge that we're even betraying ourselves, and we are. We're completely betraying ourselves, and it's fascinating to watch. Like, I've said it before, and I think it's absolutely true. Like, we are a Rick and Morty style joke species. That Rick and Morty would show up somewhere and be like, "Oh, this is what you're doing here? Oh, okay. Come on, Morty. Geez, Rick. I don't know about these guys. They're making a bunch of real bad decisions, don't you think? Yeah, Morty. Dying species always make the dumbest decisions you could possibly imagine. Come on, let's get out of here. And then they get sucked into some dumb nonsense, right? Like it's completely who we are. It's wild to watch. It's wild to watch. So that I feel like that's what I've been doing for the most part. That's what I spend most of my time doing. Although I'll admit, what does entrance me the most, what takes a lot of my time when I'm in a down kind of moment, is definitely video games. I think video games are absolutely brilliant. And if capitalism is for sure ruining video games. That video games as an art form, if we got rid of the system of capitalism, video games would explode and become different and weird and amazing and strange and odd and unusual. That you would have people make things that they literally will just make something to make it, and it'll be so strange and unusual and brilliant and beautiful. But right now everything has to be marketable. And so most video games are go kill a thing. Because go kill a thing is just like, it speaks to the core of humans. Most people understand. And if it's not go kill a thing, then it's kill a bunch of stuff to go rescue a thing. Like rescue the princess, basic Mario, right? Like go get the MacGuffin. Like, and you know, it's all sort of tied into just basic feral instinct. But video games have the potential to be a transcendent art form, to transcend something, and to give people a transcendent experience, to literally step into the skin of someone that you are not and live a life that is not your own. Like that to me, there's something very powerful there that I think that we're just scratching the surface of what video games are capable of, and just getting into like the very beginnings of the imaginative power of what could be produced. But capitalism is doing everything it can to ruin it, right? That there's a lot of nickel and diming. There's a lack of vision. Like people take a look at games like Elden Ring, and I remember reading an article on UI direction for Elden Ring, and there were UI directors, and UI is the like the hub screen that you look at, and they were like confused about it because Elden Ring's UI is basically non-existent. There's almost nothing there. And the UI directors were like, this is extraordinarily confusing. Like, this runs counter to everything we believed about UIs and what people wanted from a UI. Because at the end of the day, like when you're walking around living in your life, you don't have a UI, right? What's your UI? What's your hub? Well, you don't have one, right? Because it's obtrusive. It gets in the way. It's annoying, right? You don't have, like, you're not following an arrow to go find somebody. So it's more immersive. And so capitalists, in their effort to make things mainstream and to make things accessible so they could sell more games, ruin the game. They ruin the whole concept of immersion, and they ruin the whole idea that video games can do, which is to live in the world and to be part of the world. And they just turn it into kind of a baby experience. And then there's the loot boxes. The fucking loot boxes. Just like the pay to win shit. Anyway. I gotta skip a lot of these comments, guys. Do you know that it's been shown that bees play? And CR Strifey, good to see you. Trump indicted. Yes, indeed. We've reported on that. I got this article up literally 3 minutes after it was published. So pretty fast. Yeah, bees are brilliant. Bees actually vote democratically. That are the way that we have thought about bees, where they have a queen, and the queen is the ruler, and the bees do what the queen says. It's all false. That the position of the queen is actually more like just a mother, or if you wanted to be like really brutal about it, a breeder. That the queen doesn't like do edicts or anything. She doesn't like display any kind of like authority. Like, to say that there's a queen implies authority, and the queen doesn't actually have authority in the hive. That the authority of the hive comes from the hive itself, and decisions are made democratically within the hive. And should the queen die, the it puts the bees in a state. Don't get me wrong, they're not happy about it, but they have systems and they have ways to recover from it, and they do so. Like it's no, beehives are incredible. I was a beekeeper for a year on the East Coast, and so I know a bit about the subject. And learning about the bees really made me realize that, like, oh yeah, we're not, like, we like to pretend like we're very separate from nature, and we're really not. That there's lots of different forms of intelligent life out there, and animals and creatures are, like, a lot of them are just as intelligent as we are. They're just dealing with the reality of being in the body or being in the situation that they find themselves, right? Like, they don't have hands. They don't have good articulators. They're just living in the body that they have, and they're dealing with it. But in terms of their intelligence, in terms of their ability to exist in the world, they're not that much different than we are. Like, we're not that much smarter than they are, really. And if you found yourself to be like a squirrel, just like a tiny little creature living in a park or something, you'd act basically the same way. You can respectfully and mercifully consume animals regardless of your empathy for prey animals. Yeah. That redneck wrestler. Oops. I gotta catch up with the chat, dude. Yeah, and you're right about this. Zizek has always been an anti-communist and a reactionary. Yeah. He's not... I've never been impressed by Zizek. He's never said anything that really made me go like, oh, okay. Like, I think one thing he said was that masculine and feminine, like, these are manufactured ideas. And that was interesting to me. Like, and he said some things that I don't really remember, but I remember at the time being like, oh yeah, good point, Zizek. That's good to hear. But, like, outside of that, I've never really heard him say anything. His popularity has always been something of a mystery to me. I don't really know why people like him. You know, I can't sit down and listen to him because of the way that he talks is very frustrating to listen to. He seems to be to obscure what he's saying on purpose, right? Like he doesn't really want to talk directly about anything. Like, you ask him a very direct question, he just kind of goes off into left field for a while and winds away there. And so in many ways, he's like Peterson, that they can't answer questions directly. Because I think that if they started to answer questions directly, then people would realize that they're kind of just boobs, you know? That they've based their entire career on just kind of being a puzzle box. And then when you solve the puzzle box, you realize there's nothing in there, you know? Trump indicted, yeah. That redneck wrestler loves hunting in Manitoba. Big surprise. That's not true, John. Vosh hates Russian invasion and believes that Professor John Mearsheimer can't spell his last name as a Putin stooge. No, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, specifically, like, if it's a Western invasion. Like, if America invades something, he loves it. That's what I mean. Like, if other people invade it, it's bad, right? But if the West does it, yeah. Imagine believing John Mearsheimer is a Putin stooge. Like, just the times they would wipe out. In ancient times, they would wipe out all personal debt. Yeah, Michael Hudson has talked about this. Yeah. That, like, there's jubilees, there's all that kind of stuff. Like, in feudal Europe, the elimination, like, literally what they would do is they would have something called a tally stick, and the sticks would be and the tally stick would have a series of sticks along the side with a series of notches, right? And then they would take those sticks and they would distribute them amongst the serfs, right? And the serfs would engage in a market economy using the sticks as their currency, right? So everybody starts with equal footing, and then you start trading these sticks, and this is how they would distribute goods. Because it was just simply understood that not everybody wants everything, right? I don't want potatoes. I don't want carrots. I don't want this. I don't want that. But I do need access to food. I do need access to goods generally. And they're all producing the goods in the first place. The society is what's producing the goods, So the question is, how do you distribute the goods? Well, use these sticks. And then every year, they would have a moment where the king would say, okay, everybody bring in the sticks. And everybody would put the sticks back in. They would put them against the tally stick. They would tally up the sticks to ensure that the sticks all matched. And then they would redistribute the sticks again. And it ends up being one of the most stable economies in feudal Europe. Why? Because it completely eliminates the idea of debt in the first place. So every year, all debts are essentially erased, right? Because all of the sticks are redistributed back to the public. And it eliminates the problem that capital has, which is that eventually all of the sticks will fall under a single individual. That and the game of who gets the most sticks, right? It isn't really allowed to play out. So we could do that. Like this is what's crazy about our financial system and our system and how it is that we literally could just say right now, okay, all the money come back in. It comes back in, and we're just going to redistribute it equally. And then every year we'll just do that again. And if somebody stands up and says like, well, that means that, yeah, I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, why should we care? Well, then no one will loan any money, so who cares? Like, everybody has access to the market. Everybody gets equal share of what the society produces. We eliminate the whole, well, then why will anybody do it? Because they fucking want to, and that they want to live in a society that's good. Like this is what's so fucking crazy to me about the capitalist reactionary fascists, is that they genuinely think, like, and this is how you know they're psychopaths. Like, they genuinely think that if people were left to their own devices, they would just make the world worse on purpose, and it's because they make the world worse on purpose. Like, they're admitting it to your face that, oh, if you just let people do what they want to do, then the world will get worse, because that's what I would do. I would make the world worse for everybody all the time, constantly. Okay, psycho. Okay, we definitely don't want you to have any wealth, right? Like, we definitely want to chase you out of the conversation, right? Because you're just admitting to our face that you want to be a psycho, right? The rest of us are all like, no, I want to do good things for everybody. And this guy's over here being like, I'm going to be a psychopath and murder people. Wow, the conversation about veganism is going really hot in the chat, dude. Mr. Moon says, I love doing my degree in philosophy. Yeah, I imagine that'd be very enriching. Absolutely. Picasso cubism. Picasso suckism. Picasso suckubism. So, why? Picasso cubism. Picasso cubism. I did it. I always believed. I don't think I've ever seen you here before, bud. Good to see you. How long did it take for you to move from Christian to Marxist? I love the arts. Yeah, we need it in society. Absolutely. Like, absolutely we do. How long did it take to move from Christian? So I abandoned fundamentalist Christianity when I was maybe 25. Maybe a little later than that even, like 26 or 27. And then Christianity itself persisted for a while. But I would say that path was 10 years. Yeah, 10 years-ish. A decade. Yeah, that's right. And I don't think I've ever really, like, abandoned Christianity. It's just like, certainly modern Christians wouldn't describe what I am as Christian. That I think the Bible is a powerful document. That the more you learn about the Roman Empire and the more you read the New Testament and the Old Testament for what it is, which is a cultural document, a fictional document if you prefer that language, but a cultural document certainly, a powerful story rooted, like it's historical fiction if you think about it that way. And it's still powerful because it tells a powerful story about the Roman Empire and about a group of people who are struggling within that Roman Empire and how to do that and what to do. And it tells the story of the people who are living in it and their experiences during that period of time. Like, it's an extraordinarily powerful document. And but right now we've ceded all of that conversation that I just had to people who are like, 2,000 years ago there was a wizard. And the wizard walked around, and he was white as pristine snow. And he was raising people from the dead and curing the blind and turning water into wine. And Jesus Christ was crucified by the Jews, the evil Jews. And then he went up to heaven, saying he's coming back at any moment. And when he comes back, he's going to help us kill those Muslims. Like, this is seriously what's happening. And we should stop that. We should not allow those people to have authority of the Bible. They don't read it. They certainly don't care about Christ. Like, that's no doubt the truth. Like, the modern Christians do not give a fuck about Christ. They do not care at all. They don't care what he says. They don't believe what he says. They don't listen to him, and they don't do what he says, certainly. So we should definitely, as Marxists, I think, try to become more literate and educated than they are. And that's not hard to do. Like, I think that if you sit down and just read one of the books, one of the Gospels, like, if you just sit down, pick a Gospel and read it, you're probably more literate than 99% of people who call themselves Christian. Straight up. Like, I just don't think that there is, like, such a thing really as a literate Christian. And because I think that if you actually do read the New Testament, you'll look around and be like, oh, these people are fucking frauds. Like, right away. Oh, they don't do what Christ tells them to do, and in fact, they espouse a doctrine that runs completely counter to what Christ says pretty clearly. Like, it's not like an interpretive difference, right? Christ literally give your money to the poor, sell your possessions, give your money to the poor, follow me, right? He says this a lot. And Christians are like, if you're poor, it's your fault. Like, get the fuck right out of here. So, and like, eventually you just got to accept that, like, it's pretty unlikely that there's a wizard coming back, right? Like, imagine if in 200 years people are like, and then the great Harry Potter there's a wizard around every corner. Don't forget, the wizards keep themselves secret. And they all, like, believed that it was literally true. That, like, Harry Potter and, like, all of this stuff literally happened. Like, it would not be much different than that. Right? I actually think that would be a really funny script to write. Like, imagine a film written in a world that is just this world, except everybody believes that Harry Potter is real. Right? And they all discussed it as if Harry Potter was real, as if Harry Potter... And then one day, the great Harry Potter will come back to defeat the evil Voldemort. And or if they were accurate, they would be the he who shall not be named. And they would all be using Voldemort as, like, a spooky, scary person. And everybody would be like, oh, he's so... as if he was real. So there'd be this, like, looming boogeyman threat going around that is fictional completely. And then somebody would stand up and be like, this book is fictional. Heresy! And there'd be this whole fucking thing about that. Mr. Moon says, I abandoned a degree in business to pursue philosophy. Best thing I ever did. Yeah, brilliant. If I hadn't, I'd probably be a fucking asshole now. Yeah, given that trajectory, dude. Degree in business? You've got to be an asshole to pursue a degree in business. Sorry to any business holders. I don't mean it. I know plenty of people who are in business who are good people. Marcus, hunters are some of the most respectful, conscious... Yeah, this conversation about veganism is going around, dude. It's just not one that I really, like... I tend to say of this thing, everybody's going to make their own decision. And if you feel like you need to have this conversation, by all means. But it's just one of those things that I'm not, like... I really do think at this stage in the game, it's everybody's got to do what they think is right. Because it's not going to change. Like, there's not going to be a big systemic change. Right? Like, that if a systemic change were to occur, it would have to occur post-revolution. I actually listened to an interesting opinion piece yesterday where the guy demonstrated how EV views mental health illnesses and other diseases as laziness. What's EV? I keep referring back to our common technology. This conversation. Satan. I don't know how to pronounce this. Seitan. Satan. Satan? How do I pronounce this? It's not Satan. Come on. What is this? It's made from gluten. It's made from the gluten in flour, so I can't eat it. I have a gluten intolerance. So if you put that in front of me, I couldn't eat it. So much for that. Anemone says, Satan looks so good. So, for me, this would actually be satanic. It would actually cause major problems for me. Is there a gluten-free Satan? Is there Satan gluten-free? Mr. Moon says, Elden Ring is an amazing game. Yeah, for me, Elden Ring is like the new standard. Like, I don't think I'm gonna buy a game unless I think it's gonna be like that from now on. Like, I've got a good playlist. There's one game that's coming out that I think is going to be spectacular. It's Age of Wonders 4. I think Age of Wonders 4 is actually going to be just absolutely spectacular. I might actually play that game on stream. I might actually stream some of that game because it looks to me it's a 4X game, so it's on the same level as like, it looks like it's like a merger of like Civilization meets Heroes of Might and Magic, if you're familiar with that. And the thing that's got me entranced by it is that the customization of not only your character and the race that you're playing, but also the customization of the world itself is absolute. I'm so entranced by this that from what they've been showing, like most games are like the best you can really get is like a randomly generated thing that sort of tilts in one direction. But it really looks like this particular game is like, nah, do you want to live on a desert world? Like, do you want the entire world to be desert? Do you want the entire world to be ice? Would you like the entire world to be just like a broken blight of plague? Like, do you want to make it so that the world you live in doesn't let you heal? Like, do you want to live in a world where there's no creatures roaming around, or do you want lots of creatures roaming around? Do you want an underworld? Do you want the big underworld or small underworld? Do you want no underworld? Like, there's so many levers and so many things that you can put in. And I take a look at that and I'm just immediately attracted to it because that's what I have always felt has been missing from the 4X genre. Is like, I have always believed that the 4X genre should just let you set up the game how you think it should be set up and let you play it. So, for example, in Civilization, there are these natural wonders that exist in the game, but you can't really set it up so that you spawn beside one of these. Like, there are so many of these natural wonders that I'm like, I would love to play a game. I would love to play a game where that natural wonder was right beside my city, that I spawned right beside it. And to play a game with that built in. But they don't let you do that. You got to kind of hope that you end up playing a game like that. But there's so many of these, and it's more likely that you just will never see it. Or if you do see it, it'll be like too far away or any of that kind of stuff. And whereas this game, Age of Wonders 4, they're like, oh, you're going to be like, you want to spawn right beside that thing? There you go. We'll let you do that. There you go. And like, it's just looks so enticing and so entrancing, and they've done such a really good job of allowing you to build the like it literally is what is your imagination leaning you in towards, connected right in. And I know for myself, the very first game I'm going to play is a desert world. I've already said it once, complete desert world with orcs. I'm going to have an orc desert world. And I think I'm straight up going to name the leader Thrall. Like, let's just lean into the World of Warcraft connection. Why not? and I want it to be a world full of wonder. I want to explore as much as I possibly can. I want them to be explorers and to discover and to find, and I want them to be like desert orcs who are not aggressive. Like, I don't want to go around destroying everybody. That's for the necromancers. That's another game, which will definitely happen. But I want to exist as like noble orcs, right? Like noble savages. That's kind of a brutal term, but that's kind of what I'm looking at. That like they're living in very harsh conditions and everything's very difficult, but they're still honorable, right? They're still honorable and still trying to do right by everybody around them. They're not just savages destroying everything. Yeah. Age of Wonders 4. I'm really looking forward to it. It looks super, 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 super good. Anyway, I'm a nerd. Diablo 4, can I be honest with you, Cotton Dude? You and I are not going to see eye to eye on this. I think Diablo 4 looks like shit. I think it looks like trash. I'm really not impressed by what I'm seeing from Diablo 4. Like, and nobody agrees with me on that, and that's fine. You can not agree with me on that, but I don't like the art style. I don't like the overworld that they have. I don't think the game looks... Like, there are things in it that do look good. Like, the sorcerer does look good. The magic of the sorcerer specifically does look good. But, like, I don't find the art style to be particularly impressive or interesting. And you got to remember, I'm judging this from the position that they're going to make me pay $80 for that game. So they're going to make me pay, like, an Elden Ring price point for Diablo 4. So I'm going to judge it on that level. And it looks bad. Like, the gameplay looks bad. I don't think it's going to have a lot of content. I think the end game content is going to be bad. It's already pretty clear that many of the character classes are completely out of whack and completely unbalanced. The tooltip screens and the item screens look like trash. It looks like a mobile game. Yeah, I'm not impressed by what I've seen. Like, it doesn't look fun. I mean, let me be clear. It looks fun enough if it was like a free-to-play game like Path of Exile, right? Like, if it came out and it was like, yeah, free-to-play, and then this is how we'll make the money and all that kind of stuff, and it was like Path of Exile, I'd be like, yeah, okay. Like, yeah, then it looks great, right? Like, if it was free-to-play like Path of Exile, I'd be like, oh, yeah, cool. And we should expect it to have a certain degree of imbalance, and we should expect it to need to have a lead-up moment and all that kind of stuff. Blizzard Entertainment, Blizzard Activision, is a multi-billion-dollar company that has the backing of World of Warcraft behind it, and they're going to charge me an $80 price point for Diablo 4. The game looks like shit. It looks like total trash. No one should pay for that trash. And then on top of that garbage, they're going to put in microtransactions. They're on top of the price point, they're going to put in microtransactions. Game is trash. Never going to pay for it. Never going to look at it. Maybe I'll buy it if it goes on sale, right? For $20. $20 is what I think that game is worth right now. And I think the art looks bad. There's the balance looks bad. There's definitely no end game content. The story is going to be shitty as shit. All of the quests and everything look repetitive as repetitive gets. No, it's not worth the price point. Like, it isn't. And like, I'm gonna load up Grim Dawn again. I'm gonna load up Path of Exile again. I'm gonna play another round of Diablo 2. Like, I don't see any reason to buy this game. I'll play Diablo 3 again. Like, why should I bother putting $80 on the table to play a game that ostensibly already exists? Right? Like, I'm not, and the reason why I'm like really railing on this is because I think that Blizzard has completely gone off the rails. I don't think they're capable of making good games anymore. I don't think they're interested in making good games. They just have brand recognition at this point, and people are falling for the marketing. That's all. People are falling for the marketing. Everybody is going to buy this game. Everybody's going to play it. Everybody's going to realize it's a piece of trash because it's not going to have end game content. That they're just showing you Act 1 right now with their beta tests and all that kind of stuff. And then Act 2 will probably be okay. and then Act 3 will be garbage, and Act 4 will be just non-existent. Right? That's the grift that they're going to play on you. So they're like front-loading you, and even with the front load, the game looks like shit. Like, the druid looks terrible, looks like a terrible class that they're not even giving a shit to balance. They're just basic. They're literally just like, yeah, give him a couple of good animations where he comes in and does bear things, but he's a trash character. The balance mechanics between melee and range look non-existent. The necromancer is obviously broken and completely overpowered. The skeletons look like trash, look bad, straight up bad. They look like cartoon characters, like that. They don't match the aesthetic of everything else around them, like. And Blizzard's got the audacity to charge an $80 price point for this. And people are going to pay for it. And they're going to play this shitty game that's not going to be much better than Path of Exile. And then put it aside. And then 4 years later, people will be like... And it'll go through that same kind of scandal that games constantly go through now. Which is like, man, remember how shitty Diablo 4 was? Well, it's back again. Right? 4 years later, a 4-year retrospective, Diablo 4. Did it get any better? And the answer will be like, probably not. It'll be like Diablo 3. Diablo 3 was a bad game. It was okay, but it definitely wasn't worth the price point, and it didn't really get much better. And where Diablo 3 completely fell apart was that it didn't really have a good progression system. Like, it was all just like a plug-and-play system, so your character didn't ascend and become more powerful. You just got different shit, really. And it sounds to me like Diablo 4 kind of has a similar thing going on, where because they're doing this overworld thing, that everything levels up as you level up, and so you never really get a sense of becoming more powerful. There's never a time where you walk into an area and you're just like, oh yeah, this is the old stuff, and I just dominate it, right? Because you're more powerful now, so you don't actually get that sense of progression, which is the whole fucking point. That's the whole fucking point. Like, Diablo 2 essentially perfected this. Like, Diablo 2 is essentially the apex of all of it. That if you want to talk about an action RPG that nailed it completely, you're talking about Diablo 2. And in my opinion, if somebody said to me, oh, hey, are you going to buy Diablo 4? I would be like, no, just buy Diablo 2 Resurrected and play a good game. Like, don't waste your time with this dreck. That only seems appealing because it looks slightly different. But in truth, is not well thought out, isn't well made, looks like a mobile game, has a couple of decent animations and a couple of decent things going in on it. But at the end of the day, it's going to play like a mobile game. It's going to be a piece of trash. And people are going to pay $80 for it. And so Blizzard wins again. Like, and once again, we've got a AAA studio that produces garbage that everybody eats. Because we got nothing else going on. No, like, for fuck's sake, go buy Grim Dawn. Go buy Titan Quest. Go buy, like, I don't know, go buy any other one. Because Diablo 4 looks bad. Like, bad. Not good. I just straight up think that the people who are playing it are just excited to be playing a new thing. That really, if you went back and played like Path of Exile again, or Path of Exile 2, which is coming out, like, they'd be just as happy. But it's new and shiny. And not even shiny, it looks like shit. It looks like shit. Like, it looks gloomy, dark, and I don't mean dark in like setting in terms of like a gothic kind of thing. It just looks straight up like they took a filter and just went dark. So you gotta squint at everything. And then the print is like this big. Like, it just looks bad. I don't even know what to tell you. And I'm pissed off about it. Like, I am actually pissed off about it. I've still got like Diablo 3 trauma. Diablo 3 was such a bad game. Like, it was such a bad game that like, it was like they were taking their pants down and just shitting on it. Like, they obviously didn't give a shit. They obviously didn't care. They literally made a crap game and slapped Diablo 3 on it and said, here you go. It's just bad. It's just fucking bad. The Diablo 2 remake, the Diablo 2 rather remaster, really, really cemented that for me. I went back and I've played that, the Diablo 2 remaster, and I'm just like, yeah, there it is. Like, this is the game. You want to play that game. It's better. And they've done some retooling and some rebalancing so that certain things that weren't very good, became better and became more viable and became more interesting. And the game is just way better. It's just better than anything else on the market for sure. So if you're going to spend money, just buy the remaster. Just tell this bullshit to fuck off until they're finished with it, which won't be for another 5 years. The game looks bad. Ugh. Why do we keep doing this? Why do we keep buying things that look obviously bad? Why do we keep going to movies that obviously look bad? Why are we constantly just, here you go, Disney. Take my money for this garbage that you've produced. Why are we constantly putting inside of our brains things that are obviously very bad and very stupid? Have these industries and have these people not shown us and not proven to us that this is shit? Have they not proven to us by now that they are incapable of producing things that are worth our time and effort? Have we not gotten to a point where we've realized that if all we do is put shit in our brain that is bad, it's going to make us bad? That we're just constantly inundating ourselves? This is why I can't watch any more of this Marvel stuff. I literally can't. Because when I watch it, I feel myself getting stupider. Like, I feel myself getting dumber. I can't enjoy it. I can't enjoy it because it's so bad. Like, are you actually telling me that the end of this, 10-year odyssey, this big phase, the Thanos phase, literally ended with a time travel retcon, and we were all just supposed to be like, oh, that's a great way to end the franchise? Like, they don't care about us. They don't care about a message. They don't care about anything meaningful, and they certainly don't care about their own work. And we're all just like, here you go, more money. Yeah, fill my brain with garbage that doesn't matter at all. I'm so fucking over it. Like, I'm so over with this dumb, brain-dead, stupid culture spitting out garbage, expecting me to participate just because they made it. Their shit is bad. We should have higher standards. Nobody should buy Diablo 4. Nobody should watch any more of this Marvel shit. For sure. Everybody should stop participating. And you know what might actually happen if we all stopped watching and playing this garbage that they're shitting out of their assholes in our faces? They might actually make something worthwhile. They might actually go, this strategy of producing trash is no longer working to get money. Maybe we should try to make something good. Maybe we should actually say something meaningful. Maybe we should actually have two people have a conversation like serious adults about a serious issue and attempt to solve the problem that the piece addresses. Because for the last 10 years, everything has just been like, the world is destroyed. We're gonna survive the things that's destroyed. Get the MacGuffin! Get the MacGuffin! We got the MacGuffin! Let's save the world with the MacGuffin! Laser beam MacGuffin! It's just unserious, childish, trivial bullshit that I'm supposed to look at and be like, oh, they did it! They saved the world again! Yuckles! Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? Let's have Iron Man have a sincere and frank discussion with, I don't know, Thor, about why are there homeless people? Couldn't Tony Stark, richest man in the fucking world, going around with a literal nuclear power cell in his chest, figure out how to solve the problem of homelessness? There you go. There's a fucking interesting conversation that these two characters could actually seriously have. But instead of that, it's just like, can you pick up my hammer? You can't pick up my hammer. You're not worthy. Ooh, Captain America made it wiggle. Oh, who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck at all? There's so much more serious and interesting shit happening in reality. The Starbucks unionization struggle is a billion times more interesting than any of this shit. It's a quadrillion times more interesting than any of this garbage that they're just force-feeding in your face. They're just like, eat it! Eat it! Eat it! If this is the kind of... Speaking of force-feeding things into your face, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you like this content, please be sure to donate to my Patreon, It's in the description. Don't give $1 to Disney. Give $1 to me. If you spend a fucking dollar on Disney this month, you better goddamn give $1 to me. Because I'm fucking way more interesting than fucking Disney's shit. Fucking bullshit. Big shout out to my Patreons. If you want me to become more politically active, please donate. Thank you. Ugh. Starbucks is sickening. Yeah, dude. I worked at Starbucks for 5 years. I know all about it. And Ricky says my twin. And according to your icon, it seems like that's the truth. Here you go, Ricky. We can do it. Watch. Like, yeah, it's the same. It's the same. Is saying plague like plague? I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I got a gluten thing. It's brutal. I think Blizzard Entertainment... Yeah, I think Blizzard Entertainment is a good example of how capitalism is fucking video games. Yeah. What's a recent must-play for you? Elden Ring. Elden Ring for sure. Like, what I love about Elden Ring is they have completely committed to the idea, like the thing that video games have as a nugget, as an essence, as something that other art forms don't have, is that the art itself can say, you can't finish this. You're not good enough. That unlike other forms of art that may challenge you intellectually or may challenge you and challenge your worldview and ask you, what do you think about this, and kind of challenge you in that regard. Video games look at you and say, no, this is a challenge. You can simply not win. You're not good enough. You wanna win this? Get good. And Elden Ring leans right into that, while simultaneously creating a hauntingly gorgeous, absolutely stunningly beautiful, glittering and golden world, full of danger, surprise, intrigue, moments where you think you're just going to go into another cave that turn into just gorgeous set pieces that are absolutely staggering. Some of the best reveals in all of video games, for sure. Constantly creative, constantly putting things in front of you that you don't expect to see. You never know what's coming around any corner, and the game is ruthless. That you don't know what's coming, and it will kill you. Fuck you. Absolutely. So you've got to be ready, prepared, and willing to continue forward. And it does say to you, are you finished? This is it for you. And the best part about Elden Ring, in my view, is that the story that exists, a problem with a lot of video games these days, especially AAA garbage, is that they want you to, the story is like they take the story and they go, story, and everything's a cutscene, everything's a constant, just like you step forward 2 steps, cutscene, you take another 2 steps, cutscene, and you got to go through like dialogue trees and all this cutscene after cutscene after cutscene. Elden Ring basically gives you an open like cinematic, and then just throws you into the world. The tutorial is literally just like a couple of signs on the ground that are like, here's some basic controls. They don't give you all the controls even. They just say, here's the basics, figure it out. And you got some, and then there's a tutorial area you can just skip. You can just be like, nah, I don't care. And you can just not go that way if you don't choose it. But if you do choose it, they give you a bit of a tutorial. And then you open up the doors and there you go. Here you are. And they're like, oh, you want to know where to go? And they kind of, and it's so funny the way they've done it, where there's like a campfire, which are the checkpoints, and they just lazily kind of indicate. There's like a little glitter of gold that kind of goes, you're supposed to kind of go that way. Just kind of just go in that direction, sort of. So gone is this like, here's the guy, follow the thing to find the guy. It's just like, that way. And there's a compass, but there's no indication of what you're supposed to do. So you're just left in the world to discover it, to find out where to go. And there are entire sections of the game, like huge, massive, like castles with big approaches that are entirely optional. You can just never go there. That if you're just like, well, I'm supposed to go that way because the thing indicates I'm supposed to go that way, so I'll just go that way, and you just go that way, then there's a whole area on the back end that the game is just like, yeah, you just won't see this. So it's about just like exploring this massive, enormous world with no guidance, nobody telling you where to go, nobody telling you what's right or wrong, and what you're supposed to be doing, how you're supposed to build your character, what you're supposed to believe or think even. And the story just steadily drips out at you, and after a period of time you start meeting characters and you start meeting people, but even the interactions with those people, it's just this steady drip out. The game is constantly holding back. Who are these people anyway? Like, why should you even care about it? And the game is just like, that it feels like you've got to like really pull it out, that even engaging in the story is itself a challenge, but it's so rewarding to proceed and go in, because every step of the way there's something new and brilliant and amazing, and every boss encounter is just like so obviously well thought out, and so obviously just like unto itself. Like the Radon fight by itself is a gorgeous, brilliant, overwhelming work of art by itself. That they could take just a video of somebody playing through just that fight and put it in a museum and be like, and dissect it and analyze it as a work of art, because it's a brilliantly beautiful piece of work. And the care and the dedication and the fact that Elden Ring, when it released, it was the game it was. There's no like other transactions, there's no microtransactions, there's no loot boxes, there's no capitalist garbage attached onto the side of it. And in fact, about 2 weeks after release, they literally released another set of, they released a patch that other games would make you pay for. But they just released it and said, yeah, here's a bunch more content that we're just putting into the game. Like, it's how games should be made. It's how it should be done. And as far as I'm concerned, FromSoft and Elden Ring have set the bar for me. That if you're not doing that, I'm not interested in what you're doing. Straight up. Like, I'm really not interested. Like, boring, garbage, tedious, tiresome, lame, stupid, pointless, just a waste of time. Like, I'll just play a game of chess. Like, straight up, that's where I'm at with these guys. That's how badly I think the industry is failing across the board for the most part. That if there is a studio out there that's actually dedicated to this and is producing this at an $80 price point, and you're trying to produce Diablo 4 to get me to play that garbage at an $80 price point, I'll just play a game of chess. I'll just play more chess. I don't give a fuck about your stupid little game. Like, I don't give a shit. I'm not going to play it. I'm not interested. Just going to play another game of chess. Or I'll just do another free, like, there's so much free shit out there. Like, if your pitch at me is pay $80 to play garbage, then I'll just play some garbage for free. There's so much free shit out there. Like, I could play League of Legends, Heroes of the Storm, Riot's thing or whatever. Like, there's tons of free shit out there. That the only reason we're like, oh, Diablo 4 is because it's new. Well, who gives a fuck about that? When have they produced anything in the last 10 years that's worth a goddamn? Like, brutal. Brutal. Like, look back through your anthology. I bet if every single one, if you're a gamer and you open up your Steam library right now, I bet you have games on that list that you've never played. Or if you did, it was for 10 minutes. I bet that you have games on that list that you haven't played in years, that you could go back to and replay. I almost guarantee that you have that, if you're a gamer. So go do that. Go download a game that you're like, oh, I remember having fun with that, but I don't really remember the game. Go download it. Go get it. Replay it. Have some fun. I've been doing that a lot recently, and I got to tell you, there's tons of shit that is just like, oh shit, there's like a depth to this that I had forgotten about or that I didn't engage with, and like, I'm like, I just don't understand why we're supposed to accept that I'm supposed to exchange $80 for garbage. Like, you want me to play Diablo 4, dude? Make it free. Because that's what it looks like. Yeah, the story of Diablo 3 was awful, too. But at least the gameplay in that one was okay. But in my opinion, the last really good game Blizzard put out was StarCraft 2. And my complaint with StarCraft 2 is that they broke it into 3 games. They made us pay for one game 3 times. Like, when I played StarCraft, the first StarCraft 2... I paid for it, and then I paid for the second StarCraft 2, and I literally was like, oh, they bamboozled us. They straight up bamboozled us. And so I just refused to pay for the third one. Because I was just like, oh, you made us pay for the same game 3 times. Like, instead of making one good game, like the way StarCraft 1 was, you made us pay for the same game 3 times, and then pretended like you didn't do that. I've played it. It is 3D Diablo 2. I mean, are you talking about the Diablo 2 remake? Top-down ARPGs in 2023 feels like a meme. I mean, I think that there is a demand for it. I think that people want that kind of content. But, yeah. Yeah, I've never understood the point of games where the enemies level alongside you. Even in otherwise good games like Skyrim, that system was a massive bummer. Yeah, I think that's right. It literally plays just like Diablo 2. Are you talking about Diablo 4? I just play the remake, dude. Just play the remake. I don't know why anybody gives a shit about Diablo 4 at all. It looks bad. You want RPGs with static enemy levels so you actually feel the progression, so areas naturally gated behind difficulty. Yeah. Skyrim is trash and will forever remain trash, in my opinion. Skyrim was excellent the year it was released. What it did is it really opened up people's imagination. I think that's really what it achieved. That for the first time, I think it was the scale of the game that it really did finally capture the idea of open world in a way that I think that most other games had never really captured. And there was always this there's always this elusive thing that exists in video games called immersion. That immersion is the elusive quality that people are always trying to get with games like Skyrim. And Skyrim, at the time, connected to that idea of immersion just enough, and was open world more so than any other game at the time. And since then, I think has been eclipsed by other games for sure. Like, going back and playing Skyrim now, you're like, oh yeah, like, there are definitely other games that are better on the market right now than Skyrim. But at the time, like, you gotta remember, Skyrim's like a 10-year-old game, maybe even a little bit more than that now. And it sort of struggles with the same problems that a lot of games around that period of time struggled with, right? Like, the UI is just this, like, really bad, in-your-face, very, very poorly put together thing. Everything's very obtrusive in that regard. Immersion breaking is what people would call it. I tend to think that Skyrim, like, Skyrim sort of leans into the immersion idea and sacrifices gameplay. If you understand that, like, no matter what you do in Skyrim, you're always going to just encounter one thing and blow that one thing up with something, right? However you choose to do it, whether you're a big guy in armor that smashes them, fireball, backstab, the game is always go into a cave, there is something, kill the something, go find the next something, kill the something, right? And it's always one thing. So there isn't much there by way of like gameplay. It's not like you're like, oh, I'll cast a spell to lock this guy down. I remember I played Skyrim as I was trying to do like a spell caster that could do a lot of different spells and have like a bunch of different stuff going on. And the game was obviously not designed for that. That it was very annoying. I found myself very annoyed by it because it didn't seem like the game really rewards you for just like fireball into that guy's face. Just fireball, right? The game is like really like, good, you blew him up with one fireball, and really doesn't give a shit about like, oh, you charmed this and then slowed that, and then like crowd control shit or any of that. Just not part of the game. And so, but again, I think for the time, Skyrim was, it pushed video games forward towards this sort of immersion space. And but there are other games now that I think do a better job of it. Yeah, the second Avatar movie was a massive cash grab too. I don't regret going to see it because someone else paid for me. Oh, there you go. Free nachos and a Coke out of it, sure. And a night out. Like, I think for lots of people there is that just aspect of like, it's a night out. You know? Like, I'd go sit in a comfortable chair and eat some nachos. Remember, Tony is part of the Illuminati in Marvel, who straight up don't ever deal with these issues. Yep. Yep. We're all just like... And we all just sort of accept it. Oh, he's the good guy. This is an unpopular opinion on the internet, but I've never understood the appeal of Souls-like games. And yes, that includes Elden Ring, but each to their own. I was like this for a long time, dude. Like, I got Dark Souls. I got the original Dark Souls on a sale. And by this time, Dark Souls 3 was out. And I played it, and I rang the first bell. And I basically said, yeah, okay, I'm good. Like, I'm good. Like, I don't need to go down into the bowels of hell or anything and do the second bell. Jesus Christ, right? It's what a tedious kind of thing. But Elden Ring really broke the genre open for me in a big, big, big way. And I think it was because of the setting and the open world nature of it. And the game was gorgeous. The game was gorgeous. And I'm really learning that one of the major things that I'm super attracted to in video games is customization. The more I can customize my character, the more the character and the more the world and the more everything can just... Like, if I can take what's in my imagination and put it on the game and have that be there... That's very, 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 very appealing to me. I'm very on board with that. And Elden Ring opened that up, and there was a lot of possibility in Elden Ring to create a type of character that, like, one of the interesting things about how video games work, like when you read a book, the character that you're reading is the character. But in a video game, the character that you're playing is ostensibly you. That you are ostensibly building yourself. And if the game is completely customizable, you can basically become the thing that you think you should be in the game world. And you can try many different things if you like. But at the end of the day, the character is always going to be a reflection of yourself. And I think that that's something that's really fascinating. Something that's actually worth talking about. That by the time you get to the end of a game like Elden Ring, and there are other games that do this, but a game like Elden Ring does it very well, you should really be asking yourself, so why did you make this type of character? Like, why did you decide that this is the thing that you wanted to pursue and this is the way that you wanted to be? What was it about these attributes and this way of existing? What attracted you? What of all the selections that you possibly could have taken, why are you like this? Why did you play the game like that? And I think that you can actually use it as a way to sort of reflect on yourself, which I think is anything that lets you do that is worth pursuing. Anything that lets you look at it and then think about yourself and then redress and create that kind of feedback, I think that's really, really, really fascinating and really, 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 really interesting. And I think that you actually can learn something. And I also think the Souls-like games, what they really put to the forefront, and I've said it before, but I think it's worth restating, is that you cannot beat them. That unlike other games, like most other games on the market are like, no, you'll beat this. Like we've got mechanisms in place that you'll beat this. Like whether you need to go grind on mobs somewhere else or whether you need to go do this over here, like you're gonna beat this. Like it's beatable. You'll win eventually. Dark Souls and Souls games don't say that to you. Dark Souls games are like, yeah, you can level up a little bit more if you want, and you can go grind on mobs more if you want. You can do all that kind of stuff, but you can just not win. Like that's on the table. That's always on the table with Souls-like games, that you could just not win. And the game sort of looks at you impassively that way and says to you, like, yeah, you could just not be good enough. And I think there's a lot of people out there who are hungry for challenge, who are hungry for something, and don't like to be told they can't win. And if a game like Dark Souls comes out and says to them directly, yeah, you can't do this, they're going to be like fucking hell I can't. Like fucking hell I can't. And they're going to crush it. And when they crush it, they're going to go like, fuck you. There's this phenomenon that happened in Elden Ring where Elden Ring I don't know if it introduced it, but it allowed you to have summons. So you could like summon aid. So it wouldn't just be you fighting the boss, it would be you and then like an NPC that would fight alongside of you. And there were also like little summons that you could summon some wolves or something. So you could have like a summon of wolves and then like a summon that's beside of you, and then you yourself could also be fighting the thing. So it's like a mob-on that kind of happens. And there's this thing that happened throughout the community where it was like, if you use these, you suck. That if you use these, you're not playing the game right. So there's like a contingent of the community that's literally like, it is you versus the boss, and that's how you do it. And if you don't do it that way, you fail, you suck, you're inferior. So I think that the reason why people are attracted to games like Elden Ring and games like Souls-like games is because they crave this challenge. To tie it into the theme of what the show is about, right? That capitalists like to pretend as though, well, people just sit on the couch and be lazy and like, are you kidding me? We're literally making enormous, huge scale games, things to play that are hard, that are difficult and challenging. That's what we're doing in our free fucking time. You're telling me that if you gave us all of this free time, that we would just sit around and look at the stars and be lazy and shit, when in our free time, we're literally grinding our souls into games that make us scream? Like, and that's another part about it, by the way, that good art makes you feel. Well, anger and frustration are feelings. That you will push yourself into this thing and it will kill you and it will be unfair as shit, and you'll scream at it and you'll yell and you'll grind your teeth and you'll grit and you'll just get mad and you'll throw the thing down and you'll be like, oh, I'm never playing this again. And then you'll go, ugh. And then you'll pick it up again and you'll fight it again, and then you'll win. And the emotional elation of your victory is just like, yes, fuck you, you piece of trash. Those are emotions. Like, I've never felt that way when I was playing Skyrim. Right? But people want to feel. And a Souls-like game will make you feel. You'll feel something for sure. Right? You'll feel something for sure. I completely understand the attraction. People want to be frustrated and then win. People want to solve problems, right? And Souls-like games provide problems for people to solve. Like, I've talked to like a fan of Souls-like games who talked about it like a puzzle game. That he was like, yeah, it's a puzzle game. That you have a series of moves and a series of things and a series of things that you bring to the table. They have a series of things, and those two things interact with one another, and it's a puzzle for you to solve. And it really is like problem solving. Here's the problem, solve the problem, right? If you don't think about it like a puzzle, it's definitely like that. And it's definitely, you can hone your problem solving skills through a game like like Dark Souls, because everything that you're presented with is a problem, and you're not just like throwing yourself into it and being like, haha, take that, like in Skyrim. Like Skyrim's not a problem solving game. You're just going around with a hammer and you hit the guy with a hammer, or fireball, and you like run around, or like Diablo games, or like, you're just like, right? Souls-like games are like, no, this is a problem. This is a problem. A problem you cannot solve, by the way. And if you don't solve it, by game's over. Like, game's over. If you can't solve the problem, the game is over. And so you set yourself to the process of solving the problem, which is itself a game. Because you're not only fighting the boss, you're also fighting yourself. And you're fighting your own ability to solve problems. Like, I think that that's fundamentally true. That Souls-like games, unlike other games, are not merely a distraction. They're also a reflection on you and on your character. And this ties directly in to what I'm talking about where video games can go. And why I think video games are just beginning the process of understanding what they are capable of. That video games can really actually improve you, and they really actually can be a reflection on your character, and they can actually say to you, you're not good enough, get better, stop being a scrub, shut up, do better. They can do that, and we're just beginning to see that that's the case. That for the most part, video games exist in a kind of like thematic space. That it's mainly escapism. That you're spending time kind of and there is a bit of like skill-based stuff that exists, but the Souls-like games really can show you, and really do show you, the potential of what video games can do. Where they can say, look, if you want to do this, you've got to get better. You have to get better. You have to get better. And that therein lies the power. Therein lies the power. Yeah, basically Elden Ring doesn't treat you like an idiot. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Diablo 3 was a fat mistake. Yeah. Nah, Diablo 3 was literally just like, we gotta make another one. That might as well have been the tagline. Diablo 3, getting money from you. Like, it was, I was just, ugh. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That part felt really insulting. StarCraft 1 had 3 campaigns in the base game and 3 in the expansion. Yeah. Like, and it's not like each campaign was like as big as 3 campaigns were in StarCraft 1. No, it was obviously a money grab. Santora, I would allow that to be an excuse were it not for the fact that Oblivion existed. A game I'm replaying for the first time in over 4 years rather than pick modded Skyrim. Oblivion spoiled me. I think that lots of people, like, I actually agree with you. I think that if you're a gamer and you've always been a gamer, that picking up Oblivion and Morrowind is easy. And like Baldur's Gate, like all those games, you can like get into that and you're fine because you're a gamer. And so gamers, I think, have this real ability to be like, oh, this is the art style. And as long as that art style has a verisimilitude, as long as that's what everything looks like, then I'm in. And I'm boom, down I go. But a game like Oblivion can't be mainstream because most people, i.e. non-gamer types, can't do that. that the verisimilitude that exists within the mind of the average man is reality. And if what you're producing doesn't match reality, then they can't connect to it. Like, that's why most video games now live in a space of hyperrealism, where everything looks like reality, but just themed differently, right? Like, you can't really do, like, big mainstream games with an art style that is unique or strange or weird. Everything's got to be basically a human being existing in a space that looks pretty much like this space, but just with like a little bit more whimsy or a little bit more like and like you can see this across the board, right? Like the Grand Theft Auto games, I mean, pretty straightforwardly, but like Cyberpunk is a good example. Oh, I had it in my head and it went away. Elden Ring is a good example, even, where like everything is like big and broad in scale and all that kind of stuff, but it's basically like normal. And Oblivion doesn't pass the mustard. It doesn't make it. It's not good enough in terms of its visuals. Like the faces alone, right? Like the faces alone. So it can't break into the mainstream, and it never will break into the mainstream because it doesn't look like the mainstream. It doesn't look like reality. And I think this is a big miss, or a big shame, rather, of the truth of the interaction between video games and humanity, because like we could be doing really, really fucking cool and wild stuff. Like we could be making things that with an art style that is like really, really cool, really, really cool, and big and broad and wild and interesting. But usually when you get games that have like a cool art style, it's usually like something like Hades, like top-down action games, side scrollers. You can do a lot of cool art style. Like Hollow Knight had a really fucking cool art style, but it was like a side-scrolling kind of a game. But like you can't really create like an open world, immerse yourself in the world game where everything looks different than reality, because the whole idea is immersion. And if you can't break through the if you can't break through the problem of verisimilitude, if you can't see yourself in the world and immerse yourself as a character that looks different than what you are, which I think is most people, I don't think can do that, then you can't get into that immersive space. And games like Oblivion and games like Skyrim sort of depend on that. That really is the backbone of the game. That like Skyrim and Oblivion don't really have good gameplay, right? Because that's not the point. The point is that you're existing and persisting in an immersive world. And Oblivion doesn't pass the mustard on the mainstream. I think that gamers and like people like you and people like me are just like, oh yeah, that's what it is, and you just move forward. But most people aren't going to do that. Transylvanian, the open world wasn't why I enjoy. I love that I'm talking video games right now, dude. I'm so happy to end this stream with video game talk. I need it. I need it. I need it. Let's talk some art. Let's talk about art. Yeah, let's talk about real art. Art that's worth playing. Art that's worth spending your time on. Art that's worth doing something with, goddammit. The open world wasn't why I enjoyed Skyrim, and in fact, I even disagree with the assertion that it was the first open world. No, I don't mean it was the first open world game. I just think it was the first open world game that broke into the mainstream in the way that it did. Like, most games are like this. Like, most big games that break through the mold are like this, where they're not the first one, but they're the one that creates the crystallization moment, right? Like, lots of early Blizzard games are essentially a theft of other people's ideas and then made sharper. Like, even StarCraft. Like, StarCraft wasn't the first RTS game, but it was an RTS game that really took a lot of really good ideas and just, like, crushed them into a perfect diamond, you know? And Skyrim was like that. Oh, but even back in the 90s, the Might and Magic RPGs kind of had open worlds. Yeah. Separate maps, technical reasons. Yeah. Felt pretty open. Heroes of Might and Magic is a special kind of a game. Like, one of the things that I'm really looking forward to with Age of Wonders 4 is that it looks like they've really captured the Heroes of Might and Magic aspect, but also have like a civilization kind of city building aspect tied into it to make it a lot more robust. I'm really, and then the tactical combat looks a lot better. Like, I go back and I play like some of the Heroes and Might and Magic games, and they seem very basic. Basic would be the way that I would describe them. Like, at the time, they weren't basic, for sure. But now I'm kind of like, oh yeah, this is like a mobile game now. Like, this is like something I would play on my phone, you know? And it's good to know that there's a game coming. I'm really looking forward to it. That is getting past that and is really starting to harness what these things can actually be. And so I'm looking forward to it. For one thing, I don't like games where I can't make manual saves anywhere at any time. Elden Ring lets you do that. You can save at any time, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? I don't know if I just lied to you. I think you can, though. Anyway. I also don't enjoy difficulty for its own sake. Yeah, that's fair. And I don't like how Souls games tell their story. Yeah, Souls games are like really... Like, the story is like really... You can make it to the end of a Souls game and be like, what was I even doing that whole time? And then Marcus says, what do you mean difficulty for its own sake? Easily surmountable challenges have no reward or satisfaction for being completed. This is a real video game conversation. I don't like the aesthetic of any of the Souls-like games. Yes, I agree with this. I am not a big fan of... Like, the original Dark Souls really turned me off because... I gotta be honest with you guys, like, I'm over the dark and gritty shit. I really am. Like, everything that comes out is supposed to be, this is a dark and gritty version of that. And I'm just like, I don't give a fuck about that at all. Like, at all. If you're trying to pitch me an idea by saying, it's dark and gritty, I'm like, you really? Like, I don't want to spend my free time in a sewer. I don't. I don't want to spend a moment of my life going around in a sewer. I don't know why people are like, oh boy, I can't wait to get to the sewer level. I'm like, what are you even talking about? Like, we could set video games in heaven. We could set video games in, like, rainbow, unicorn lands. We could be surrounded by... We could create a world that was like a beautiful garden full of hot, naked people, where everything was about pursuing beauty and love and building a society. We could do that. And everything could be, like, crazily pornographic, and nobody wants to make this game because everybody's like, oh, it'd be dirty, and I'm like, fuck you, that would be great. Are you kidding me? We could do this. We could make a glorious, glittering, beautiful game full of just like nudity and laughter and sex, and we just don't because dark and gritty, dark and gritty. I'm over it. I'm over it, man. Like, I don't want your dark and gritty bullshit. And I completely agree with you on this point, Transylvanian. That once I finished Elden Ring, I started playing Dark Souls again. And the reason why I stopped was actually for the same reason I stopped the first time. Then I did it. I hit the first bell again, and then I thought to myself, okay, now it's time to go down. It's time to go down and get that second bell. And I started doing it. I got a lot farther, in fact. But I stopped playing. And I don't really know why I stopped playing until just now. It made me realize it's because I don't want to be in a fucking sewer. I don't want to start a game and be like, well, I'm in this shitty cave. Time to go fight some bears in the shit cave. Like, Elden Ring is different, right? Elden Ring will send you into a cave, but the cave is small, usually. And like the catacomb, it's like a small little section. You're not in that's not the game. Right? And Souls-like games will do this to you, where there'll be a section where you're in like a castle, or you're in like this, like, but then there's always a section where it's a huge section. You're underground in a sewer. Be in the crypt. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be there. I want to be in a beautiful garden surrounded by naked women. So sue me. I don't like their UI or lack thereof. Yeah, their choice to not really have a UI is a bold choice for sure. And I don't like their combat mechanics nor their progression system. Yeah, dude, like, sounds to me like you're basically just like, every part of this game and every decision they've made is a no from me. And I get it, dude. I do. Like, I really get it. I'm sitting here being like, yep. I think that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, some things just don't, it doesn't hit. You know, it doesn't hit. And art is like that, right? And what's funny about something like the Souls games is that maybe there'll be a moment in your life where you'll look at one of them and think, why not give it a try? And then you'll really connect with it, and it'll really happen because you'll have changed, and it stays the same. So that's fascinating from my perspective. That maybe one day you'll turn around and go, I'm going to give this another shot, and then all of the complaints and all the difficulties, you'll accept them, or they won't bother you as much because something will have changed in your life. So it's like, I don't care, and then you'll go through and have a great time, and that's the beauty of it, right? And maybe not, but that's fine. I don't judge people for having a different taste, of course. I also didn't like Hollow Knight for most of the same reasons. Interesting. Oh, that is actually very interesting, because I thought that Hollow Knight was really crisp, and they really nailed the sort of Metroidvania aspect of it, where like certain areas were locked off until you found an ability. Interesting though. But you really loved Ori and the Blind Forest. Oh, that's really fascinating, because I found that Ori and the Blind Forest, I didn't ever play it, but I looked at it and I didn't really care. Yeah, I think that's it. I just didn't really care. Content, I really think Elden Ring is sci-fi. I know it's crazy. Get the F out of here. Get the F out of here. Someone suggested Scarlet Rot is actually a terraforming technology. Get the fuck out of here with this bullshit. Okay, so that would sort of imply that all of the magic isn't magic. That it's actually technology. That you're not actually casting spells, you're using technology. And it's like a crystal-based technology. Is that right? Is that the claim we're making here? I think that there's too much that sort of shows that that's bullshit, if you ask me. The faith spells are clearly magic, because they're not based in crystal technology or crystal spells or whatever. I like this idea though. I'd delve into this. That's good. The RPGs I grew up with were Might and Magic, a brilliant one. Wizardry, Ultima, yeah, classic. This is classic stuff, dude. Gothic, Elder Scrolls, yeah. As well as Baldur's Gate type CRPGs. What do you think about Baldur's Gate, the new Baldur's Gate that's coming out? I bet you'd really love that. Divinity Original Sin. I bet you'd really love the Divinity series, dude. That Divinity Original is that top-down kind of thing. You get to kind of pick your character, and there's a lot of dialogue choices, a lot of choices within it. I think Divinity Original Sin would be a great game for you. Yeah, I think if these are the games that you're telling me about, and like the Baldur's Gate style games, you got to look up Divinity Original Sin, dude. I bet you'd really, really dig that. Marcus, John, the no summons mentality was born because the boss mechanics design is based on the idea you can't simultaneously mitigate damage and apply damage easily. Summons negate that relationship. Yeah, I know. I don't care. Ben, are you fearful of Chat GPT and GPT-4? I mean, fearful is not the word that I would use, but like, it's disruptive, for sure. Like, all of this technology is going to be super disruptive. And we're not sure how it's going to be disruptive, but it's definitely going to be disruptive. And the South Park guys actually had some really interesting ideas about how ChatGPT could be used. They had so one of the boys was getting text by his girlfriend, and the boys got talking to one another about like, I don't even know what to say to her. Like, I don't know how to respond to this. And one of them pulls out a phone and is like, oh, I just downloaded ChatGPT and I take what she said and put it into ChatGPT and then ask it to come up with a good response as if it was the boyfriend. And then I use that response and I send it back to her. And she seems fine with that. Like, I think that there are a ton of interactions and a ton of things that we don't even know how it's going to be used. We don't know what people are going to use it for. But I do think that there are tons and tons and tons and tons of things that it could be used for. And all of it's going to be extremely disruptive. It absolutely is going to create disharmony in the society. Because professionals are going to be the ones that feel it the most. Right? Like, professionals are the ones that are going to take it on the chin. Lawyers, doctors, engineers, software engineers, right? And the capitalists are for sure going to try to use this technology. Like, for sure, they're going to try to use this technology to replace people. For sure, 100%. That's already starting to happen. And so it's extremely disruptive. And if we don't do something about it on a social level, it's going to create a lot of problems. And of course, the solution in my mind is the solution that I've always had, which is we should make all of this technology public. That the public should own it. That the benefits of what the society creates should go to the public. And that if we could create a bunch of robots to do all of our work for us, then everybody should benefit from that. And without exception, across the board, 100%. And this idea of, well, you got to earn it. Shut up. Like, shut up. There's so many cool things that we could do as a people with this attitude of allowing robotics, allowing AI, and allowing computer systems to be considered a public good. Like, here's a really basic one, right? Like, we could create a program that is publicly owned, publicly sourced, and able to be updated by the public, that is essentially a FIFA game, right? Soccer, right? You could make a soccer game that is open and available for everybody, that can constantly be updated. So if new players come into your real soccer game, you could just download it into this soccer game, right? And the game can be constantly updated and can be graphically updated. And you could hire just like a small team of people as people who keep this server going and keep it up, so that you as a society and you as a people can always freely have access whenever you like to this soccer game. And you don't need to constantly be buying new soccer games. Every year you don't need to pay another $60. That it's just there. That you as a people can just play a soccer game and it's there. Right? And it's just publicly sourced and it exists. And you can do this over and over and over and over and over again for any game and any type of game you like. And you can do this over and over and over again for any program and anything you like. Like, why is Microsoft Word privately held? Shut up. It should be publicly owned. That we should have a public word processor that just connects with everything and has it make sense. Why do we have a million different systems that don't talk to each other? Like, what are you talking about? That's so fucking stupid. Certainly the government should have its own processing system that everybody can have access to and that connects with government programs. Like, we could have so many cool things set up through public systems, and we just don't, because we're in the early days of computing technology. This is like the Wild West, and we're about to have a little fascist moment with computing technology, where the capitalists are just going to be like, it's ours, you can't have it. Like, that's more or less what's happening. When all of it could be free and open source, all of it could be available to everybody. We could literally just say to our government, hey, can you make sure that that's always available and free and open? And the government will go, yeah, of course. Because that's what it does.
That's the mechanism, which is why the capitalist class needs to destroy it. Because if we had a strong, robust institutional government system that understood that its role was to act on behalf of the public good, then the very first thing it would do would be cudgel the capitalists and get rid of them. Because the capitalists are doing things like, we should privatize word processors. No, you shouldn't. Like, it would be as though the capitalists went, you know what we should privatize and make sure no one ever has access to? What we should do is hoard all the paper. And then every time somebody wants to buy a piece of paper, we charge them $20. Like, that's basically what they're doing, right? That they're buying up all the paper. They've got the paper market, and they're going to charge you $20 for a piece of paper. Because that's what capitalists do. They hoard the resources, jack up the price, make you pay more for it, and they're just doing it digitally. And given the dreck that we're willing to tolerate in our entertainment, why shouldn't they do this with things that matter? Like, why are virus programs not just freely available? Like, seriously. Like, why is Norton as like a virus protecting system? Why isn't there just literally like a public sourced, like, what are you talking about? We're all sitting here being like, we gotta care about our national security, and the Chinese are gonna come in through our computer technology. Well, okay. Then where's the military's version of Norton? Oh, that doesn't exist. Oh, okay. You gotta spend $40 a month. Oh, okay. Like, shut up. We could do so many cool, awesome, amazing, kick-ass, over-the-moon kind of crazy shit, but everything's got to go through these dumbass capitalists every time. And the capitalists are just like, what kind of bullshit can we vomit into their mouths to make sure that they stay connected to our dumb shit? And their solutions are like casinos, basically. That's their solutions. Make every game a casino. Get people hooked and addicted to casinos. Don't produce art. Don't produce something worth doing. Don't produce something interesting. Don't do any of that. Just casinos. Blah. And ChatGPT should be publicly available. It should be public sourced. It should be something the public has access to. And it should be... and honestly, like, our food and shelter should be the same. Like, we could actually eliminate all of this. Like, we could eliminate all of these concerns, right? Just by saying, like, yeah, you get food, you get shelter. This is who you are. What is this thing, the invite to join live? I don't even know what this popped up, but anyway. But, like, we are going to go through a period of decline and balkanization just because we're too stupid for all of that. Like, straight up, we're just too stupid for all of that. Like, even the idea of saying out loud that people should have food and shelter. Well, you gotta toughen yours and earn it, and if you don't do it, you gotta earn it. And there's all this nonsense that's attached to it. When in reality, the truth is that any society that's not providing its citizens with food and shelter is a society you can safely ignore. The only reason you need to respond to it is by the threat that it offers to your life. And that's it. That you exist in a society that is holding on to you by threat of extreme violence, which is homelessness and starvation. It's not providing food and shelter, it's withholding it. And any society that withholds food and shelter is a society you don't need to pay attention to at all, once you have abided by whatever bullshit it's putting in front of you. Once you acknowledge that you are under the gun, and then you do what it tells you to do to get your food and shelter, anything else it tells you, you can safely ignore. It has no moral ethic. It has no credibility. It's got nothing interesting to tell you about how to live your life, because it's not even acknowledging what it's doing to you, which is withholding food and shelter. And until the society actually provides food and shelter, then you don't need to abide by anything it has to say. It has no moral principle that you even need to pay attention to. Because the only ethos that it tells you is, you gotta work for your money, you gotta work to survive. Okay, I've worked to survive. I don't care what you say past that. Straight up. And why should you? It's literally withholding food and shelter from you and telling you it will happily allow you to starve in the streets. and die of starvation. It'll happily do that. While simultaneously, by the way, poisoning your food and poisoning your water. Poisoning your air. Right? So once you do the thing that gets you the food and shelter, bye. And fundamentally, that's why figures like Peterson and Shapiro and all these guys are so laughable. Because they think they have credibility when they don't have any credibility whatsoever. Santora, don't care if it calls me out if that type of game you want. Trials in Tainted Space. Trials in Tainted Space do not go if not adult. Have you pitched an adult game in the chat here, Santora? You dirty dog. You filthy monkey. Trials in Tainted Space. That's a good point. That could very well happen. My tastes have changed before. They will change again. Yeah, and I mean, but that's what I love about games, and like there's so many cool games that have been made. I'm sure. Like I have never once played an Assassin's Creed game. Not even one. Like, so here's this whole genre that's just like right there that I've never even played once. So that could be a real treat one day. Fabala, I'm not a fan of the grim dark aesthetic overall. I'll install mods to remove it from the game if possible. Like Fallout 3 was so much better with the green filter removed. Yeah. Like, why does everything have to be just oh, it's so gritty? And it shows you, like, we can't actually imagine worlds. Like, it seems like the only world we can imagine is this world but destroyed. And like, even Elden Ring, it was a new and different world, but it was destroyed, right? That we can't seem to imagine just like a world that's functioning in any kind of meaningful way. I was about to ask if you care for the Metroid series. Metroid Dread was easily one of my top favorite. I didn't play Metroid Dread. I do remember, and the reason why I stopped playing the Metroid games is because you have to get the Nintendo shit. Like, Nintendo doesn't go on PC, which I understand why, but it means that I don't get to play their stuff. Like, Breath of the Wild is one of those games that I'll play 10 years from now because I'll finally find a Switch on sale or something and get a copy. But, like, I would play Breath of the Wild for sure, but I'm not going to spend $500 to do it. And Metroid is, like, seminal, right? Like, Metroid is actually, like, one of those games. One of the things that people, I think, really discount is that they made the decision to make Samus a woman. And they didn't reveal it. So it wasn't until the end of the game that you realized you were playing as a woman the whole time. And people really discount, I think, the impact of that on a young man. Like, I know for myself, as a young man who is like growing an attraction to women and going down those same well-trodden, worn patriarchal paths that exist in our consciousness, to play a game like Metroid and to enjoy it and to love it as much as I did, and then come to the end and recognize that I was playing as a woman the entire time, it changes your perception of the relationship between men and women and your perception of women. I thought that was like, it's such a subtle, and they did it so right. You know, like these days there's a lot of talk about like wokeism is a big thing, right? And I genuinely do believe in the idea of doing swaps and like race swaps and gender swaps and that kind of thing. Like as somebody who's been in the theater, I really think those kind of things are really good. But the way that they're doing them is very ham-handed. And the way that they're introducing these themes and these ideas are very ham-handed. There's a lot of ham-handedness. Well, Metroid is a really, really great example of showing a young man in a very subtle way, in a very elegant and subtle way, that women are more than capable of doing these things. Why shouldn't they be? You just watched it happen. You just spent hours and hours and hours and hours playing as a character you assumed was a man, because you're a man, I'm a man, when I was playing it. I assumed that Samus was a man. I had no reason to think otherwise. And then when I got to the end of the game to recognize, oh no, that was a woman. Oh. Okay. And it changes something. You have a little switch that goes like, oh, okay. And that there was like a little turn. And it was so graceful and it was so elegant. And I think that the rest of the industry has something to learn from that kind of a thing. That it's kind of a trick, but not, if you understand where I'm coming from. And then on top of it, so to get away from that conversation, the Metroid games have always been, like, there's a reason why they're called Metroidvanias. Like, Metroid has always been the standard. And the core idea of a really good Metroid game is not just exploration, but re-exploration. Going back through an area with a new item or a new toy to be able to find something you hadn't found before. And when it comes to exploration, Metroid really knows what's up, and they really figure it out. Hollow Knight was beautiful to look at, I'll admit, and I like side-scrolling platforms, but the story and the world of Hollow Knight just completely did not connect with me. Yeah, I mean, it is bugs, right? Like, there is that. Like, at some point, you kind of go like, oh, these are bugs. I liked the original Divinity, Original Sin, but didn't like the second one. Bought it for my partner, though. She loved it. What was it? What was it about the second one that didn't really get you there? Yes, it's technology. They're mining shit, yeah. Okay, so I think that it's a sci-fi as if an alien invasion came to a medieval time. Okay. I also love the first Pillars of Eternity. Again, the second one fell flat. Interesting. Think of it like Book of Revelations. It sounds like fantasy, but think giant scorpions with crowns are probably tanks. Now think that in reverse. Okay, bud. Okay. You're laying it out. As for the new Baldur's Gate, I don't know. I'm staying away from it right now until it's finished. Then I'll take a look. That's wise. I would consider it more interdimensional. Well, yes, indeed. It isn't pure fantasy. It's clear that a bunch of people are getting fucked with by aliens. Is it clear? Is it clear that a bunch of people are being fucked with by aliens? What makes it so that you think that it's clear that that's happening? I think the Erd Tree is a parasite. I think the outer gods are just aliens trying to influence these medieval people. There are outer gods. Like, there are outer gods, and there is that concept. There is, like, the two fingers, and it is essentially an antenna that's, like, connecting to some kind of outer voice or some kind of thing, right? And then what the fuck are these two fingers? What are those even? Automatic Pizzuti, smoking that Trump pack this evening. Yeah, we'll see how it goes, dude. Yeah, it does look like Trump did get indicted. Yeah, we've been talking about that. Atomic Heart is a new one. I'm on the fence about Atomic Heart. I don't know if I want to spend the money for it. I recently did a replay through of BioShock Infinite, and that was a good time. But I don't know. I'm not completely sold on Atomic Heart. Yeah, Atomic Heart's full of a lot of low-key anti-communist propaganda, yeah. Yeah, I love Metroid. I was so shocked when I see some representation like that growing up. Yeah, like it was actually, like, when you're dealing in a world where, like, every protagonist at the time was male, and you're dealing with young men, like young boys, who, if they knew that Samus was a woman, I think they would be like, no, this is a game for girls, right? You're dealing with guys who are like, yeah, I'm not playing with dolls, I'm playing with action figures, right? That's kind of the quality of where people were at. And so getting it in at the end is where it really the brilliance actually lay. That you don't know that Samus is a woman until the end. So you've already invested, and you've already perceived yourself in her. And so when it's revealed to be a woman, then you have to recognize in some subconscious way that that you can see yourself in another woman, that women are not simply an object of desire, but that they are a person unto themselves, that they live in the world, right? And it's and I know that sounds so fucking reductive, but when you're 12, right? Divinity 2 already put me off right at the character creation screen. They introduced some really weird races, and even the normal ones looked weird. Then also it had a very weird class skill system. Oh, fair enough. If you don't like it, you don't like it, right? All right, guys. We made it to the end of this one. We did it. We're here. We're here. Always remember, each and every one of you is a quantum being, walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it. You'll just be the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel, revolt, repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.